दिन है न जाने मौसम पतिता प्रभु नाहि त्रिभुवने गौरांगा करुणा कर दिन है न जाने मौसम पतिता प्रभु नाहि त्रिभुवने दंते तृणधारी गौरव डाकी है तोमार कृपा करिए स्वयं हृदय मंदिरे दंते तृणधारी गौरव यदि दया न करिबे पतित देखिया पतित पावन नाम किसेर लागिया यदि दया न यदि दया न करिबे पतित देखिया पतित पावन नाम किसेर लागिया पड़ेछि भवतूफाने नहि काने स्थान श्रीचरण तरणी धने दासे करो पार पड़ेछि भवतूफाने नहि काने स्थान श्रीचरण तरणी धने दासे करो पार पड़ेछि भवतूफाने नहि काने श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दासरनु दास प्रार्थना करो ये सदा नरोत्तम दास। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दास प्रार्थना करो ये सदा नरोत्तम दास। करुणा करो दीनहीन जाने मौसम पतिता प्रभु नहि त्रिभुवने। गौरंगा करुणा करो दीनहीन जाने मौसम पतिता प्रभु नहि त्रिभुवने। ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं सहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदः गणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्युषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकाकांत राधाकांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone today. We are perhaps having the meeting at least in this place for the last time because Svadharma was already shifted to Barsana and this place is going very soon. Someone else is coming here. So I just thought that since we had the facility of an empty place, we'll use it this time. But obviously next time, if it is in my house, it's in my house only, and if it is actually in Svadharma's house, it is going to be in Barsana, not here. So I think some of you may have not known that he has shifted there. So this was one theme that he took. We'll be discussing this theme as we go in. Svadharma, loka-sangraha, etc. Another theme that he took was? Yeah, that was of course there. Krishna's personality got out very beautifully in so many places. In Krishna Lila and Dwarka especially and everything. But another one important thing he took about is relevance. He took this theme very prominently, that how, a preacher, especially a preacher or anybody, he was saying especially about a preacher actually, that how the preacher has to be always relevant, to the audience or the people whom he is addressing. And he was saying that you should be actually be able to connect to that audience and, do something. Otherwise, you become irrelevant very soon. That means this whole idea, that means we all know this concept, that preaching cannot be something which is, too stereotyped or, that means you say something in a very pre-planned way. You'll have to be ready for situations and see the audience and decide. He gave a very nice example of Maharaj actually. I'll start with that. He was telling that, this was just a couple of months ago. So he was saying that Maharaj, he was in London. He was invited to participate in a debate, he said. And the topic of debate which was given was, is violence necessary in today's world? A topic tha, debate ka. So he said that, there were two speakers for and there were two people against. And the person speaking for was like this Colonel West, Dr. Colonel West, very big man, that whom we have seen once, very famous speaker. And there was one more person from America, very big speaker, one lady. Two people were for. That means violence is necessary for a good cause. And Maharaj and one lawyer from London were supposed to speak against. That means violence is not necessary for a good cause. So they were told, and this was in Oxford University. So they had called Maharaj over there, and the audience was all, all professors and students and, very big people. So the hall was jam-packed. So the deal was that, Maharaj had to, each of the speakers were given 20 minutes to speak. So Maharaj said when he went there, Maharaj was telling all this to Govind Prabhu recently, he said, that when he went there, he understood actually what kind of impact this is going to have, because the audience was really, hi-fi audience, elite audience. And also Maharaj realized that I am going to speak against, but actually, for is easier to defend, against the both mushkil hai batana. But anyway, Maharaj had something to speak. And not only that, Maharaj's team partner tha, jo lawyer, wo aaya hi nahi. So that lawyer last minute did not arrive. So basically it was two people on one side and Maharaj on one side. And that Colonel West first spoke 20 minutes, how violence is necessary for a good cause. Yeah, 20 minutes. 20 था. नहीं वो दूसरा आया नहीं ना, पूरा time इनको ही मिला. Whatever. So yeah, whatever. 20-25 minutes was there. So they spoke first. The first team spoke first. They impressed people. People were laughing, this, that, ha ha, he, clapping. They really, connected it to the audience. Then when Maharaj's turn came to speak, Maharaj said what he did was, first 1.5 minutes he spoke on his topic. That how violence is not necessary even for a good cause. Then Maharaj broke the concept of the debate only. He said that now actually I want to speak from my heart, he said. He said, because I cannot just speak just for the sake of it. He said, I want to speak from my heart something. And he started speaking on how violence is necessary for a good cause. That was his heart. And Maharaj spoke for 20 minutes. And Maharaj said to Govind Prabhu and others that when he spoke, at the end, the entire audience were crying. Everybody was crying. So people were only crying. And they have a video, which they will release soon, hopefully, where the judge, his wife, many other professors and students who attended, their interview after attending Maharaj's talk. What did they feel about his talk? So they were all like, clean bowled, so to speak, after hearing his talk, on this particular subject. So of course, Maharaj's video is also there, that 20 minutes what he spoke. They said it will be released very soon. So we'll get it, hopefully. It was a very recent thing. So he was using this example to say that, how you should know how to connect to audience. If you don't know how to connect to audience, you cannot actually preach. The concept of being very relevant and actually connecting. Because it's not just some, standard stuff that you speak anywhere. So this was one prominent theme that it took. Relevance. How everybody has to be relevant. And He said that everybody becomes irrelevant in this material world. He said even incarnations become irrelevant. He gave a very nice example. He said that like Gaur Nitai, there is this pastime in Chaitanya Bhagavat where Gaur Nitai, like Sachimata is seeing this in a dream or something, right? She tells that Gaur Nitai and Krishna, there was an offering made. Yeah, an offering was made and to Krishna Balram, and then Gaur Nitai come and say that, now your time is over. We are going to eat this. And there is some kind of transcendental fight between Krishna Balram and Gaur Nitai. And ultimately Gaur Nitai say that, abhi aapka samay ho gaya hai abhi hamara time hai. So that pastime is there in Chaitanya Bhagavat, which I'm sure all of us have heard. He took this as an example also later to say that how everything becomes irrelevant. So in this context, even incarnations after a particular point of time, their relevancy is lost. They are not there now anymore. It is some other incarnation's time basically to really exist in this world. So he touched on this concept very often throughout his classes. So this was the second concept I think loka-sangraha and this. These were two very important concepts. Sivasan, you remember anything else? Prominently concept which he drilled down. These two were very important concepts, no? Which he spoke. Yeah. Fascination of Krishna. Yeah. Krishna's divinity. Yeah, Krishna's pastime. So we'll see that. Yeah, good. Correct. So this was there. And so he was telling about Maharaj's relevance. He was giving some examples. Suppose this was off the class. This was in our discussion. So he was saying that how, the sensitivity and the relevance to people, understanding is very important. So he was just telling about that Ganga, Jamuna, Saraswati, which they have, that Prayag project which is there, where they want to, like all of you must have heard about it, right? Briefly, just to tell you that they want to have this massive village outreach, where, they help them with everything, so I think Ganga is for water, for agriculture, Yamuna is for the spiritual knowledge, and Saraswati is for health and education, etc. So like that, they want to have that. That's called as Prayag, where all these three come together. So they were having a lot of discussion, it seems, in that. So Maharaj told these people, it seems, that when we are doing this project, we have to be very careful that when we go to these villages, suppose if they are doing some Hanuman, some local festival a village is having, like the Hanuman festival or something, we should not stop that festival in the name of that, we have come here to replace all your things by Hare Krishna. No. So Maharaj told everybody that this is not our mood. We are only going there to serve them and see if we can, give them something more. We are not going there to, hijack their culture, whatever they are doing. They may be doing some Ganpati worship, something they may be having, Durga, whatever. They may be having their local village festivals. So we are not going there to, we have to be very sensitive about it. So he was just sharing these things that, if one is not really very careful about this as a preacher, how when, there is an outreach, there can be challenges. Anyway, so rest other things we will talk as the time goes. So now I'll just go with the lecture flow by and large as to what we heard and discuss based on that. So we're actually starting right now. Till now it was just an introduction. Yeah, so he was telling about the greatness of Krishna. So he started with this. He was saying that how the Dwarka itself, a very important place, because even if you see, Shankaracharya established 4 mathas all over India, and one was in Dwarka. So Shankaracharya's 4 mathas are where? First is in north, Badrikashram, Jyotirmath actually, slightly below Badrinath. This side it is in Puri, and down Rameshwaram or Sringeri, whatever, however you see it. And east, west it is Dwarka. So he established these 4 mathas. And he was saying that how, Krishna spent over 100 years in Dwarka, a substantial portion of his life. Out of 125 years, Krishna lived only hardly 11 years in Vrindavan. Most of the time Krishna spent in Dwarka only, And of course, he was hitting on this point that he spent all his time to ensure that there is a good administration in this world. So he was saying that, Krishna spent so much time to ensure that a good administration comes. And that was there for a very short period of time. So he was saying that Krishna left Vrindavan at the age of 11, and by the time Krishna actually coronated Yudhishthira Maharaj as the emperor, Krishna was almost 100, because after that only some 30 years the Pandavas lived, out of their 125 years. So Krishna also took like almost 90 years to establish a good administration in this world. You know, they were saying that how important it is to have a good administration, how the Lord works for it. You know, how the Lord comes as a Kshatriya for this purpose. So he was saying that how, you know, the amazing thing about Krishna is that he has so many qualities, you know, like if he was saying that all other incarnations, if you see, they have one prominent quality, like whether it is Buddha, even Lord Narasimha or everybody. If you see, you know, there is one very prominent quality, very specific. Krishna is the Purna Purushottam Bhagavan, you know, he has all these qualities. You know, all the qualities, the 64 qualities which we see of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything is in Krishna. You know, that's why it's so attractive. We were saying that is why we see, so that is why we see that he has so many qualities. Apparently there is a contradiction in his qualities. You know, like we have that famous example he was quoting of Durvas Muni, where he is telling the gopis, you cross the river, you know, by saying that Krishna is brahmachari and Durvasa drinks only something, some grass, Durva grass. So if you say that, you can actually go over that river or something. And they go over also. So they are also amazed. I say, how does it work? So the point is actually all contradictions are resolved in Krishna. You know, so he is actually the ideal brahmachari. You know, he is a brahmachari as well. You know, so everything is there in him. So of course he started by speaking about, basically we started the Leela from, you know, Jarasandha and Krishna's marriages. Because that is Dwarka Leela. If you see in our Krishna book, he basically covered almost everything after Vrindavan Leela. Actually, he started with, he also gave a lot of comments on, you know, various, you know, events in Krishna's life. Like, for example, when Krishna married Nagnajiti, you know, that story is there where he had to control how many bulls? 7 bulls. You know, so that was the condition by her father, right? That there are 7 bulls, you have to expand into 7 forms and control the 7 bulls. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he said, raises the question, why did he do it in 7 forms? He could have done it in a single form only. So why did he do it in 7 forms?
Because they want to ensure that there are already so many queens of Krishna.
Yeah.
You may have a doubt whether Krishna will give personal attention.
So Krishna wanted to ensure Nagnajiti that, you know, I can expand and satisfy everybody, don't worry. You know, so he was like saying that. Then he was saying that how, you know, Dwarka is also, you know, Dwarka, Somnath, both these places are also places where, you know, Krishna leaves the world as well. You know, that means, you know, that thing also happens there. So he was saying that how, you know, when Krishna was about to leave the world, at that time, Vidura was very moved to hear that Krishna thought about him. You know, like that story is there that Krishna tells Uddhava that Vidura will come, and, you know, Uddhava instructs Vidura and he tells him that, you know, Krishna was remembering you. So that actually made Vidura very ecstatic. Just thinking that the Lord was thinking about me, you know, when I was passing away, when, you know, he was living away from this world. So he was saying in this way, you know, that is actually a sign of great amount of love. So he was giving some simple examples. He was saying that Prabhupada in 1977 when he was passing away, during the last days, he was thinking of George Harrison. You know, because it is said that, you know, one of the most important persons in Prabhupada's movement was George Harrison. You know, for what he did in the, what he actually helped, you know, for Krishna consciousness to get that public, you know, outreach in Europe. You know, without his help, you know, it was kind of very difficult. You know, that push that they got, Hare Krishna's got. You know, we will discuss that story once. There is a very nice book written by one Ranchor Prabhu on When the Sun Rises. He talks in great detail about George Harrison's role in Hare Krishna in the Western world. And it's really phenomenal actually if you look at it. You know, what a big man can do. And Prabhupada was actually remembering him at that time. And when he came to know, he was also very much touched by that emotion. So of course, so he was saying that similarly, even when Bhishma was departing, you know, even he was very moved to see that Krishna came and with the Pandavas very well decorated and to hear from him. So he was telling that when Bhishma was departing, he had 3 kinds of feelings simultaneously. He quoted one verse which says that he had regret, satisfaction and gratitude. So he was quoting one verse to say this, that regret for, what was Bhishma regretting? Anybody would like to guess on this? What could have been Bhishma's regret? What was one thing that Bhishma would have wanted to do which he did not do? Yes, no, Draupadi's Vastraharan. For that there was a regret. And satisfaction? Someone else? He was satisfied what? Yes, Yudhishthir as the king. And gratitude for what? Yes, Krishna was present on his deathbed. So he was saying that, in this way, he was saying that he was giving this as an example of contradictory feelings, how they can come. And he said that is fine. So he was saying that even in great personalities' life, sometimes such contradiction will be there. So he was saying like Bhaktivinoda Saraswati also, as he was passing away, there was a regret or a feeling that, why my disciples are quarreling like this. So he's saying this happens sometimes, that, you have all contradictory feelings. He was saying that even a human can have such contradictory feelings. Of regret also, happiness also, everything in one stroke. It's possible. So, of course, then he started, because, we were mainly talking about Dwarka Leela. So he was saying that as far as Gaudiya Acharyas are concerned, they are mainly lost in the question that how could Krishna live Vrindavan. So that's why they don't go too much into Krishna's Dwarka Leela, too much in terms of elaboration of that, or in the Mahabharata, etc. Just like our Gaudiyas, our specialty is which book? Srimad Bhagavatam. If you see, Srimad Bhagavatam is our main specialty. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. That's the essence. Even though it is only, 35 chapters, in the 10th canto also out of 90, but generally that's what, we all generally talk about, or, mostly discuss about, etc. That's a very important focus. So, but, that's why he said that Gaudiya Acharyas are lost in this question. How could Krishna live Vrindavan? Hence they stop here. They don't go too much into Varnashrama or, understanding Krishna and Dwarka, why he did this, that. That they don't really touch into. So he said that Krishna would speak a lot of lies in Vrindavan. Like, I didn't eat mud, or, I didn't steal the butter, etc. But all these lies were to increase rasa. But he said for the first time, Krishna spoke a real lie. He said, was when he was leaving Vrindavan and telling the gopis that I am going to return. He said that was the first genuine lie that he spoke. Because Krishna, he said, he knew that he is not going to return. Because once he leaves Vrindavan and he has so much of work to do as the avatara, he has so many things to accomplish in the world. And he said that those things cannot be accomplished sitting in Vrindavan. Because that is a platform of love. And in the platform of love, you cannot work about establishing dharma. For that you need Hastinapur, Kurukshetra, Dwaraka, all these places to establish dharma. So he said these things can never happen in Vrindavan because it's an abode of love and it's an abode of sweet pastimes. You can't mix these things. So he said Krishna knew very well at the age of 11 when he's leaving Vrindavan that I'm never going to come back. But he said for the first time, Krishna spoke a real lie that I am going to come back, he told the gopis, when he actually knew he will not. And he said, of course we know that, but the reason why he told that lie is because had he told the truth, what would have happened? What would have happened? The gopis would have given up their body. They couldn't live. It was impossible for them to live. That was too much to take, that he's not going to come back. Because they lived all their rest of 80-90 years just thinking Krishna will come. Because he said he will come. How can he go against his word? That was the, whole thing, That is how our Rath Yatra is there. How could he leave? That is a platform of love basically. So over there, you cannot justify all these things. So he was saying that, had he spoken the truth, all the gopis would have died immediately and the theology of Gaudiya Vaishnavism would have never come up only. He said because the whole idea of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is Krishna is always in Vrindavan. Krishna is there. Krishna never leaves Vrindavan for a second. And he's there to reciprocate love with his devotees. That's actually the feeling. But he had to leave. So, so he said that, very few, so then he started talking about, the first thing being, yeah. What happened? She's upset suddenly? Oh my God, how could you commit such a big offense? Took away her bottle, really. So he said that, the real starting point of all the politics outside Vrindavan was when Kamsa's wives, Hasti and Prapti, went to Jarasandha. That was the actual starting point of all the political situation. Why it was a starting point? He said because Hasti and Prapti ran to Jarasandha complaining about Krishna. Correct? That he killed, their husband. And Jarasandha was their father. Jarasandha was actually the father-in-law of Kamsa. So we're saying that very few queens, ladies, have the ability to condemn their husband's action. Why you want that place? Somebody wants that place? It's dirty, leave it. So he was saying to condemn their husband's action, at the same time continue their wife's duty nicely. That means if the husband is wrong, to say that okay, he's wrong also, at the same time I'll do my duty. So he's saying Mandodari, Tara were such examples, who condemned their husband's action, but at the same time as a wife they continued. He said, but Gandhari could not do it. She cursed. She cursed Krishna. Or similarly, the Hasti Prapti also could not do it. They were cursing Krishna. They were complaining about Krishna to Jarasandha. So he was saying that he basically started with this particular chapter in Dwarka Lila. If you know, there is a chapter, na? Akrura goes to Hastinapur. You know that chapter? Akrura visits Hastinapur to advise Dhritarashtra. It's a chapter aata hai na? So who is sending Akrura? Krishna is sending Akrura. Because that is the actual time Krishna gets into this whole politics. For the first time Krishna comes in the Mahabharata. Where he is, yeah? Husband. Yeah, husband means, of course, I was generalizing over here, that very few people have the ability to see that my kith and kin, what they are doing is wrong. At the same time, having a love for them. But at the same time, knowing that they are wrong. See, Gandhari knew that their people, that's what, na? Why is Gandhari cursing Krishna? Because she is holding Krishna responsible for the death of her sons. At one point, though she knew internally my sons are only bad, but she lost control of this fact that actually my sons only created the situation and they died. She felt that Krishna is responsible for the death of my sons. She blamed Krishna. Yeah, Krishna could have changed the situation. Gandhari felt like that. When in actuality, it is not like that. The ball was in Duryodhana's court only, which he never basically changed. You understood? So that means the concept being described here is that, see, we will have love for our family people or near and dear ones. But when they do anything wrong, we still love them, but still we don't agree with what they have done. Generally, people have two views. One is, in love, they just get carried away without condemning. Or, you understood, na? Or they give that person up. You understood? That means they say, okay, you did wrong, now get out. You are not anymore my person. You understood? Like if you see even Vibhishan, he never rejected Ravan. Ravan kicked him out. And even when Ravan died, Vibhishan is crying. So Vibhishan never gave him up. You understood? Two things we are talking. That means our kith and kin, we love them, and at the same time, if they are doing anything wrong, we understand they're doing wrong. That means both these things. So Gandhari, she, could not understand that their kith and kin is doing wrong. She blamed Krishna for the death of the sons. That is the point. Yeah, she got carried away by the emotion of love. And so when you are too much carried away with the emotion of love, you forget that your kith and kin have done wrong. Correct, na? So, right? These are the two things. So in this particular place, the whole Mahabharata actually starts, where Krishna first time he comes into the Mahabharata, where he is now asking Akrura to go to Dhritarashtra and advise him. So he's saying the politics here is very interesting because Hastinapur seat was technically empty at that point. Because Dhritarashtra was not the king, he was just a namesake king. And Bhishma was unable to declare war. He could only protect the kingdom. And Jarasandha had given 2 daughters to Kamsa to keep him as his general. So Jarasandha also, he said, arrange this marriage with Kamsa to form a political alliance. You understood? So that means there was a, that is why this Rajasuya was technically very important. Why only Yudhishthir Maharaj could do the Rajasuya? Because only a king can do that. Dhritarashtra was not a king. He could not do Rajasuya. Jarasandha wanted to do Rajasuya, but for him to do it, he had to conquer Hastinapur, which was not easy. And Hastinapur could not do Rajasuya because they could not attack Jarasandha because Dhritarashtra is not a king. He has no right only to do Rajasuya. He was never crowned as a king, Dhritarashtra. He was a makeshift king. He was a placeholder. So he was saying that this was the situation. So Krishna, he said at that point itself, Krishna understood his purpose of sending Akrura over there was to ensure that the Pandavas are protected. Because he knew that, Krishna knew that from now onwards my main work is to ensure that these people get their right share. Because these are the real people who can actually govern and rule everything and, challenge the Jarasandha and, take over this whole Bharatavarsha, which others cannot do. So that is the politics at that particular point. You understood, na? So, yeah, and Jarasandha was making all his friends, Shishupal and Kamsa and all these people to gather a big force, ultimately because he knew if he has to do Rajasuya, he has to defeat Hastinapur, which was not easy actually, because Bhishma and all were there and it was not easy. So, but at the same time, they also could not do anything. So, they both were stuck, both parties were stuck. And the only people who could actually do something good were the Pandavas. But they were unfortunately, living as nephews in the house of Dhritarashtra, and moreover, there were, atrocities committed on them. So Krishna wanted to protect them. So he's saying that this is the first place Krishna decides, that I will do this. Then of course, he was telling that, Krishna defeated Jarasandha's army but left him as a strategy, not as compassion. So he's saying that there is a difference between strategy and compassion. So somebody may think that, oh, Krishna was compassionate to Jarasandha. No, he was not. There was a strategy, to allow him to get more people and to kill them again and again. So he's saying that, when you mistake, compassion for strategy, there is a problem. Now, of course, he was giving he was giving Indian examples of that Prithviraj and all that also, who, for example, who captured that Muhammad Ghori, but, who unfortunately, he was not strategic. He falsely compassionate. So he was in trouble. Then he was saying one very nice thing, that one thing about Krishna's life, he said, was Krishna's pastimes are full of unpredictability. Krishna's life, if you see, nothing was predictable. Krishna's life was always on the move. He was always running here and there and, going here and there. He said, this is a very important characteristic. Mata, your light chahiye kya aapko? Acha. So he was saying that in everybody's life, there should be some predictability and some unpredictability. This was another important theme that he took and yeah, yeah, so it's loose. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So he was saying that in everyone's life, there should be some predictability and some unpredictability as well. Then only life can be challenging and there can be fun in life. You understand this point? He said that when life becomes too routine and predictable, life loses its charm and people get bored. So he was saying that in Mumbai, there are some psychologists, who have done a lot of survey of school children, 8 to 10 standard children in Bombay. And he said most of the children, they report that they just want to run away from home. So why is such a report being there? So he said that the psychologists have analyzed this children behavior and they have come up with the understanding that most children feel like running away from home because life is too stereotyped. No challenge in life, no unpredictability in life. Everything happens in a very, very fixed way. So he was saying that this is also a challenge. And he said this is modern urban challenge. He was saying that, in the school, Gopal's Garden, many places they have done these surveys to see this. Especially he said after teenage, children need that, that adventure, and dynamism in life. But he says sometimes city life, by nature of the industrial job, sometimes it becomes too routine and it becomes very predictable. But he said at the same time, too much unpredictability is also difficult to handle. So he's saying that everybody's life should ideally have some quotient of predictability and some quotient of unpredictability. By unpredictability, we mean challenging situations, sudden situations, things that actually, make you think and decide what to do. He said if that is not there, life will lose its charm. Yeah, this is very important. So he was saying that in Krishna's life, if you see, it had so much of unpredictability because he was, if you see Krishna's whole life in Dwarka, he was always running here and there only, always. He was never sitting very comfortably also in Dwarka. Hardly he was like, in fact, when he sits comfortably, the Mahabharata ends. Where, all the Pandavas have become king and then there is nothing more to say actually. Till the whole story is only when, he's running here and there.
It's similar to that comfort zone, stretch zone and panic zone.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So there has to be some stretch zone. Stretch zone. All of you know this, right? There is comfort zone life, stretch zone and panic zone. Panic zone as in here, too much unpredictability. Comfort zone means too predictable. Stretch zone means, some things where some activity and dynamism is in life. So I think this is very important. So, and he was saying that, sometimes he is saying as devotees we feel that, we want life very predictable so that we don't have to struggle. He said that unpredictability means struggle. He said, but you should not avoid struggle. He said trying to avoid struggle also can cause problem. So he was quoting from the Mahabharata at this point that how Bhishma, when all these things happen, loka-sangraha and all that, and when the Pandavas come back after Draupadi's marriage, Bhishma is the one in the Mahabharata who proposes that half the kingdom should be given to the Kauravas and half to the Pandavas. Because he thought that by doing this, everything will become, we will not have to struggle unnecessarily. So he said that what happened is, again, he said this misplaced compassion. Because Duryodhana had to be actually hanged at that time. Because he actually tried to kill the Pandavas by trying to burn them in the loka-sangraha, which was proved by that time. But Bhishma did not suggest only that they should be punished. Rather, he awarded him with half the kingdom. And that was the best half of the kingdom, inevitably. Because Hastinapur was given to them, right? And Khandava Prastha was given to the Pandavas. Yeah? That is the point we are saying here, that, see, this is a different thing where, two brothers are having some small quarrel and, you say, okay, divide it. This is like one fellow is trying to kill the other, man. Come on. It's actually criminal. I mean, from any perspective, if you see, attempt to kill is not a ordinary offense. It's not just some disagreement. So that is the thing. So saying that, so basically the theme here is that trying to think that, we will not take challenges of life and, take an easy way out sometimes doesn't work, he said. You take an easy way out, but it doesn't work. You have to struggle only. So in this context, Bhishma took an easy way out by giving Duryodhana half the kingdom, but obviously it did not work. What you say? Justice, yes. Sorry. Yeah. So he was saying that, So he was saying that, after they ran away from this Mathura, so basically Jarasandha attacked 17 times, 18 times, what happened? They all come to Dwarka overnight. Then after they come, so Balram gets married first to Revati. Balram gets married. He said when Balram gets married, Krishna at that time, in the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad, he decides that he will neither take a position nor get married, considering what happened when he came as Lord Rama. He said this was Krishna's decision, that he will never take a position. That means he will never become a king. That's why Krishna doesn't become king of Dwarka. Who is the king of Dwarka? Ugrasen. Though we call Krishna as Dwarkadish. Correct. But Krishna is actually technically not the king. He is just a prince in Dwarka. He doesn't take the position. Because when you take position, then you are stuck because of that position. You are not free to do anything. People question you. Like Rama, because he had that position, people questioned about Sita. So it is said that at that point of time, Krishna decides he will never take a position, neither he will get married. Considering what happened to Ram. Means this was his decision, he said. But he said in a very short time, Rukmani's letter comes and Krishna breaks his vow. He said this is the difference between Krishna and somebody like Bhishma. But Krishna was very flexible with his vows. He said that he knew according to situation we have to act. So Krishna, we are also very flexible with our vows. So Krishna is a more easy character to emulate rather than Bhishma. Bhishma, Raghunath Das Goswami, lines on the stone. अपना वो बहुत फ्लेक्सिबल है. आज डिसाइड किया फास्टिंग करने का, प्रभु जी ने प्यार से गुलाब जामुन दिया तो खा लिया. ना कैसे बोले? Yeah, it comes here only. So he said that is the difference between Svadharma and loka-sangraha. He said Svadharma should lead to loka-sangraha, never destroy it. So we're saying, so again, saying the point, Svadharma means what? my own vows, my own principles, my own characteristics, or what I want to do in life. That is Svadharma. Loka-sangraha means, is it actually benefiting people? That people in a smaller unit can be family, in a little larger unit, society, community of devotees. In an even more larger setting, it can be a country or whatever, the nation, etc. So he was saying that sometimes a person's Svadharma goes in conflict with the welfare of people in general. So he was giving here an example of Bhishma, for example, who was very much, who had the Svadharma, of his own vows. But his vows which were there, of not getting married and all that, that only in some ways led to so many situations in terms of the loka-sangraha. You understood? It was not beneficial for the country and society or even the family at that time. Correct? Because of that Bhishma's vow, what happened? Immediately there was no king, and the whole Mahabharata starts because of that only. You understood the point? So that means my decisions are actually not benefiting the people around me. My decisions are benefiting only me or in whatever context, but it does not really benefit so many other people around me. So that is problematic. And he said that this another thing, he very interestingly, there are many other examples he gave for this Svadharma loka-sangraha. I'll just take the other example. In the context of Dwarka Lila, Satyajit was a person, for his Svadharma or for his own purpose, what happened? He got Syamantaka jewel. But the Syamantaka jewel that he got did not benefit the people of Dwarka. That is why Krishna comes and tells him that, see, you should give it to the king. And Krishna was not selfish at that time, because Krishna was not the king only. That's why he didn't become the king, so that he can tell all this. He said, give the Syamantaka to the king, because anything ideal should be with the king. King means what? With everybody. So don't keep it only with yourself. So he said that, but this fellow's Satyajit Svadharma or desire. Svadharma in this context also means desire to get something for oneself. Did not go in line with the benefit of people. He said, no, why should I do that? I'll keep it only with myself. He didn't give it. And ultimately, so Krishna said, okay, fine. I mean, I'm just suggesting you, if you don't want to give, it's okay. Krishna did not push him. But the point is, it caused such a catastrophe. Everyone died. In fact, the Syamantaka jewel's blessing, original blessing was, anybody who worships this jewel can never be killed. वो एक blessing है. वो पूरा violate हो गया बोले. His Satyajit's brother died, Satyajit died, all deaths only in the family. Because that Svadharma was not in line with the people. It was just for himself. It didn't benefit anybody actually. He was saying on the contrary, Yudhishthir Maharaj, he also worshipped sun god and obtained Akshay Patra. But he obtained Akshay Patra to benefit people. Because he said in the Mahabharata, when Yudhishthir Maharaj goes to the forest in Vanvas for 12 years, 88,000 Brahmanas or something, they come along with him. Because it seems when Yudhishthir Maharaj had been the king in Indraprastha, he had taken charge of the education and maintaining so many thousands of Brahmins. So when he went to the forest, these Brahmins said, we are going to come with you, no matter what. So Yudhishthir's worry is, how will I maintain these people? And at that time he worships the sun and he gets Akshay Patra. So he said his Akshay Patra was not just for his family. Not that because he, Bhim and Draupadi wanted to eat, he got Akshay Patra. It was for loka-sangraha. That means it was for society. It was for people around him. So he said, whenever you do anything in life, which is not just for yourself, which actually benefits everybody, then that is truly beneficial. That means your Svadharma and the loka-sangraha should be connected. But when you do something which benefits only you, that is bad. So this is a very interesting thing actually, which all of us, what does he want actually? He wants the mic or? That are my actions, huh? Yeah, no problem. He's really not creating any noise. He's coming here and touching the laptop. That's okay. So you understand the point, right? That means he said that that means every individual's vrata, tapa, dana, whatever we do, dana, vrata, tapa, that means whatever charity we give, whatever vrata we take, whatever objectives we have in life, it should benefit people around us. In fact, in today's world, it is quite opposite if you see carefully. Many times people take decisions, even in families and all, people take decisions only for themselves. Even their parents or people are not in that equation. That means it may not benefit them. You understood? Like somebody goes somewhere and he sits permanently, let us say, just, you understand what I'm saying? Like in modern times we see this very often. Yeah, because increasingly modern society is, everybody wants their space only. Yeah, so they are not really thinking in terms of even their family. And if you not think about your family also, what to speak of society and then country, that's bigger circles. Yeah, which generally people, so that means the concept is this, that whatever you do in your life, it should not only benefit yourself, but it should benefit others also. If it does not, useless. So Bhishma is Satrajit are all examples in this context of people who took vows or who took things in life, but it did not benefit the people around. So that is why it caused more problem. So is it Bhishma's vow actually caused loka-sangraha? It caused such a big, fight among everybody, because it was like that, And Dhritarashtra also, he said, all his desires caused only loka-sangraha, conflict. Dhritarashtra wanted, whatever his desires were, his aspirations, his dharma, it only caused loka-sangraha. It did not cause any benefit for society. It did not cause loka-sangraha in that context. Yeah.
When he took that vow, actually he did not do out of his own personal self-interest. He wanted to do this for father. But again, the point I think is he was very limited in his understanding. He was for the welfare of all society. Not
Yeah.
For the sake of his father, he took such a strict vow.
Yeah, that means.
But his intent that time was,
Later even Satyavati told that
because nobody knows the future. Of course, consequences became so serious.
Yeah, that is correct. But
At that point in time, if he had to decide,
see, whether it is for your lust or your father's lust, it's almost the same thing. It's like, it's just extended. You understood, na? Like for my father's lust, I take a vow. It's the same thing. Yeah. That's what the point is.
like Kumkan taking side of his brother.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, another thing very importantly, he said that in this world, relationships, he said material relationships are never and they should never be ahetuki. He said in this world, relationships are never ahetuki. Ahetuki means what? Selfless. He said selfless service and relationship is only with God. Only with Krishna the soul can have selfless relationship. But in this world, every relationship should have, that means he said the very important point. The concept was that if you try to be selfless in worldly relations, you only get exploited. He said that is what happened with Bhishma. He was very selfless as a personality, but he was totally exploited by Dhritarashtra and his children. Because he said selflessness does not work in this world, in material relationships. He was saying, many examples, he was saying that there are mothers who are too selfless for their children. He said the children exploit them. Children exploit their parents if they are too selfless. He said in any material relationship, husband, wife, kuch bhi ho, there is a give and take only. That relationship is working because this person is X is giving something to Y is giving something to X. He said every relationship in the material world is based on a bargain only. And he said that if you are not clear about that, you will only get exploited. So he said the selflessness you can apply only to God and your Guru. There the relationship is self. It's a very important concept. He was saying that, but you don't try to bring this in the world. He was saying Bhishma and all are classic examples of people who are truly selfless but completely exploited. And Yudhishthira was also tending to be like that, but he said Krishna never allowed him to be that way. Because Krishna did not like people to get exploited. So he, so he said that it was never allowed. Yeah. No, see, that's what. See, there is a dharma in every relationship. There is patni dharma. There is patni dharma. That means the wife, she has a duty towards her husband. But no matter what. But again, see, as a husband, Ravan was good only to Mandodari. See, in that husband-wife relationship, there was no problem, remember. Ravan was not that Ravan had put Mandodari on the street. Ravan was taking very good care of her as a husband per se. Vali and Tara, there was no mutual problem in that. You understood this? They were very good only with each other. You understood the point? What was problem was something else, adharma he was doing. So the wife could see that my husband is doing some. So in that context, what we were saying is if you're kith and kin, see generally, our nature in this world is, if our kith and kin do anything wrong, we justify our kith and kin. Yes or no? Like, I mean, simple thing. In a society also, two children are playing and they start fighting and beating each other. The mothers come and both mothers take their children only. Is the mother very, generally most mothers are not very objective to see that, ye sahi mein galti mere bacche ne kiya. Very few mothers do that actually. Most mothers, what they do? My son only is correct. And they start fighting. That means you don't see the mistakes of your kith and kin. That means your love is so much that you just focus on that dharma in that relationship. So that is not to be done. That is what we were talking in that context. But as such, in any relationship, there has to be give and take only. And if that is not there, and if somebody says, in my material relationship with somebody, in my family, society, whatever, I will try to be selfless, that person is fully exploited. That's the point, yeah, we are taking here. Is the concept clear? Any other question on this before I go ahead? Is everyone clear about this? Yeah. Selfless. Oh, of course she can be. That means it is not that, selfish as in not necessarily for herself in that context, but she's actually seeing whether she should actually ensure that the children are not just exploiting her for their own enjoyment. You understood? Like in any relationship, you can get exploited, na? Totally. Like classic example is this. Bhishma was the grandfather. If you say, how can grandfather get exploited? He was exploited. Correct? Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra and all the 100 sons, they completely exploited their grandfather. Why? Because their fellow was too selfless. He was not seeing at all, Bhishma was not, he allowed himself to be exploited. That's the fact actually. You understood? Similarly, if a grandfather get exploited, mother also can get exploited. Is that okay? You understand the point, right? That means if you are not, that means here, that means, every person in any relationship, that person has to do some duties. If he is not doing that, it is not that you just keep giving yourself to that person. If you do that, there is a problem. Then that person will go completely off track. Correct? Any other point? Yeah. Yeah. No, Prabhuji, I'll tell you one thing. That is also in the same domain only. Guru, Krishna, Vaishnava, they all come under the same domain only. They come under the same domain by and large. Yeah, see, family is Vaishnava, but then again, there is that material component in it. It is not like that. See, that you understand the point. See, we will have to separate out that material and spiritual over there slightly. That means, yeah, in a family, see, that is in a spiritual connotation we are talking. That, the Supreme Lord and the pure devotees are served selflessly.
Plus, that is also to the extent we are seeing them as Krishna's representative. But in our 24 days day, how many times we are consciously aware of this fact? Whenever we are in the extent we are, that is correct.
Yeah.
To the extent we are seeing them as devotees, and we are conscious of their devotiness.
Yeah, but family has other these things also, na? You cannot see only like that. People exploit. See, generally it is like that. Just imagine a simple thing, like a mother or father tells the child that, beta, jab bhi aapko paisa chahiye, mere se pucho, main dunga aapko. Child will completely exploit the father and mother. Any child will. Correct. Simple example. He will exploit only. Na? He say, father is giving money, man. Why not keep taking? Milk him completely. He will do it. That means you have to see whether what he is doing is right or not. That means everybody has their roles and their responsibilities which they should fulfill. Otherwise, the relationship has no meaning in that context. Not that somebody is only giving and somebody is only taking. It cannot happen like that. That is the point. Yeah.
This connection once I had a realization that our hearts are made of glass, and if you want that it should not be broken, give it to only Krishna. He is the only one who knows how to handle it. So what may happen in some relationship is you may want to be very genuine, you may want to do everything, but at some point or the other there may be some disappointments or frustrations, and you may feel that your heart is broken. So best is to always keep the heart to Krishna, because our heart is made of glass. He is the only one who knows how to handle it.
Okay, good. See, that is why, some things we are talking from the Bahya Drishya, and some things we are talking from the devotional mood. You can't mix up the two. See, yeah, I'll come to that. It is going to come very soon. That is Bhagavatam and Mahabharata. That is, there are some things which are the devotional mood, and there are some things which are external behavior. See, I will tell you one thing. Even a temple, even a pure devotee, even a pure Krishna temple, there also, they have to be very careful, otherwise they'll get exploited. I'll tell you, they were telling me an example, Chaupati devotees, going for someone. They were saying that, they have a thing that any guest will come, they will take care of them very nicely. Very nicely they will take care of them. There was one Prabhupada disciple who came, it seems, to Chaupati. He overstayed. He stayed like, 10 days, 1 month, like going on staying. Somebody said this, I forgot who said this. So they were saying, yeah, I heard it from some Chaupati devotee only. Yeah. So they were saying that, I mean, like, this person is not going only. Overstaying 1 month, 2 months, abhi kitna din guest. So one day it seemed they said that, they arranged a taxi, and after morning they removed all his saman. Literally, bori bistar bandh ke taxi mein dala, bola ye lo paisa, this thing to Bombay airport. And then from there, book your own ticket and go wherever you want to. Packed him off and sent him. Here also it has happened with sannyasis and many people like that. Yeah. In our temple also it has happened. Something is getting recorded, so I am kind of a little sensitive. So you understand the point, na? So that means what? There is a spirit of devotion. कि कोई भी आया हम उसका सेवा करेंगे. लेकिन कभी कभी बहुत बड़ा सन्यासी भी आया तो भी आपको ऐसा उसको बोरी बिस्तर बांध के उसको बाहर डालना पड़ता है रोड पे. It's a fact. I'm saying in a temple of Krishna you have to do it. You understood? Because there is a bahya drishya also. You understood? No, can you say, okay, let me be humble like a grass, let people come step on me and stay in this temple? Can you say that? It doesn't work. They will, some 20 people will come and stay in your temple and you will not have anything now. You have to shut down, mandir band karna padega phir. Yeah. Yeah, that role is in the external world. That role is in the external world. You will have to fulfill that. Correct? Yeah, so that clarifies that. Yeah. So what I'm saying is it is not very hypothetical. I'm saying even in a temple you have to do it. What to speak of in a house or in a family or something. Udhar to zyada hai hi bhai. Yes, you should not allow yourself to get exploited by anybody. It's incorrect. Yeah. No, so that is why we generally give a benefit of doubt to people. Not that tomorrow another guest comes, we will think he will be like the previous guest. We will try to treat them well, but when we see that they are not behaving like a guest and they are, taking advantage of our humility, then we have to change the avatar only totally. Then you cannot be the same avatar. Default behavior वैसे generally humble ही रहते. Yeah, correct. No, I am giving in a devotee environment with devotees only. So, so that makes it even more graphic. So, you cannot. Nothing else remains to be said. Other things if I say, then you will say, okay, इसका मतलब बाहर के लोगों के तो ऐसे करने का. वैसा नहीं. Even within your own community, you are forced to, take care of external things. Right? Yeah. So then he was saying very nice thing. He was saying that, Rukmani's greatness, then he spoke about Rukmani's marriage. We are going sequentially, if you notice. First Jarasandha, then Krishna coming to Dwarka, then Rukmani's wedding. So he was saying that Rukmani knew politics very well. And hence she could advise Krishna on a strategy to kidnap her. Because Rukmani wanted Krishna to kidnap her from the Durga temple so that there will be minimum bloodshed. Because her family people will not be there around. Because Rukmani knew, it seems, that in the Durga temple, her brother, father, nobody will be there. And she did not want them to die. So he's saying that this is because she was a daughter of a king. So she knew all these things. So he said that generally all Krishna's weddings took place in the same way, where the woman wanted Krishna as the husband. And he was saying that is why Krishna's marriages were very good marriage. So he was saying this point that, the woman should want the marriage. This is again in our tradition, if you see, it is like that. हमारे tradition में भी generally ऐसा है कि लड़की वाले लड़कों वाले के पास जाते हैं. In every custom in India it is there. लड़के वाले लड़की के पास नहीं जाते कि आपका लड़की दो करके. लड़का वाला राजा जैसा बैठा रहता है. लड़की वाले आते हैं हम आपके लड़के के लिए हमारे लड़के. So this tradition is technically coming from Krishna only. Where Krishna, he was saying that, he was the best brahmachari because he never ran behind any woman. The woman came behind him and said that please give the marriage. So he said, okay, fine, I'll go ahead and take it. So, that is actually ideal. So he was saying, he was giving a very nice example. He said, Shishupal was dreaming that, this Rukmini is going to become my wife. So he was saying that Shishupal in the previous Leela was Ravan and he kidnapped Ram's wife. So this time Krishna gave it back, by taking away the girl whom he was deeming to be his wife. Uske wife to nahi bali kabhi. But he was just, yeah, he kidnapped before his eyes. He was describing in great detail what was Shishupal's, state at that time. He was looking at Rukmini's beauty and everything, and suddenly Krishna comes and, walks off with her. And he was saying that, and he went into that pastime, he was saying that Krishna tells Rukmini, immediately after taking her, your army will destroy them very easily. That means when Krishna kidnaps Rukmini and goes, there's a big army who comes to fight. And Krishna mentions, your army will destroy them easily. So Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna immediately gave his army to Rukmini. Because Krishna gives his devotees everything. So, see, Rukmini, it seems, prays to Krishna to forgive Rukmini, though Rukmini was do anything. So, yeah. Yeah, correct. So he was saying that, Rukmini was very, how her heart was. We know this, that, though Rukmini tried all this nonsense still to get her married to Shishupal, but still Rukmini was very considerate and did not want him to be killed or anything. Anyway. Yeah. He was saying it was... Yeah, so he was giving this example, again, Svadharma, loka-sangraha. That how all these kings, they were wanting to get their sisters and daughters married to people for their own selfish purpose without even thinking of benefit of family. That means Svadharma without loka-sangraha. He was saying Rukmi wanted Rukmini to be married to Shishupal for his own selfish interest of making his position strong. He was not even thinking, is my father or sister happy with this? That means it was not even benefiting the family. What to speak of loka-sangraha in general. You understand the point, right? Just a very classic example of where you are thinking about yourself and not about your family also. Similarly, Jarasandha gave his daughters to Kamsa just to make his political situation strong. So he was saying this was very common in India those times. Even Balram, promises Subhadra to Duryodhan in that same, connection. It was all without the family's benefit. It was only about, their own vow or their own pleasure. Where they promised all these things. My sister, I'll give you and all that stuff. He was giving this as example. Balram promised Duryodhan, that Subhadra will be given to you. Correct? It comes. And this comes, and this happens, he said, according to the Harivamsha. When the Satrajit affair happened, this, Satrajit was killed and all, and there were rumors in Dwarka that Krishna has only, stolen this or killed Satrajit. At that time, Balram goes away from Krishna for some time because Balram also believes these rumors. Harivamsha describes. It's a supplement to the Bhagavatam. And Balram goes to Mithila. At that time, Shakuni advises our Duryodhan to come and learn mace fighting from Balram. And at that time, Balram becomes happy with him and promises Subhadra to him. So that means, from that story, what we see is that money has such a potential. No, it's okay. Very soft feet, it will not do anything. Money has such a potential to cause misunderstandings that anybody can misunderstand anyone. That's the power of money. That's the separate lesson from that. But what we are seeing here is Svadharma loka-sangraha, where you promise everything just for your own benefit. Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, very good. See, yeah, very good. I'll give you some more examples in this context. Svadharma loka-sangraha to make the concept clear. We were discussing in the train on this. he was telling that in Jobari temple, even if a person has to become brahmachari now, they are so clear on it that the boy has to have his parents' blessings. That means if the boy is taking a decision to join, it should not come at a cost of a great disruption in the family. It should not come in a situation that, the family is on the street. You can't do that. You understood? If you do that, it's problematic. I mean, they were discussing one case where I think our temple only, one boy is now determined to join and he's joining or something. It seems his parents, he has only one sister, and the sister met with an accident and she's paralyzed, and the father has lost a job or something, and something like that, some very complicated case. So he was very clear on it that in such a case, the boy should not join. No question. He should not join because he is taking a Svadharma without the loka-sangraha for his family only. And he's saying if you take such steps where you decide to do something for yourself without even considering somebody like that, your own blood family, he's saying you can never bring about any auspiciousness. So he's saying even devotional service when you take as your Svadharma, it should not conflict with the loka-sangraha of people. That means sometimes, you understood?
A more mature understanding of devotional service is to be applied.
Yeah.
Non-devotional service has to be given up. Because again, some people may argue, like, in voice and all that, sometimes when it is taught, tug of war is there, what will you do? Will you follow your duty to our father
Yeah.
or will you follow duty to Krishna? That is very valid point. But how the duty to Krishna does not only mean giving a father and mother. Giving father and mother also duty.
Yeah.
It's not about a tug of war between devotional service versus loka-sangraha. It's about how a more mature understanding of devotional service has to be applied within loka-sangraha. Because otherwise somebody will say, no, Prabhuji, what, our duty to parents are more important, duty to Krishna is more important. So that statement is technically correct. But
Yeah, you should learn how to synchronize them.
It's not exactly.
Yeah.
more mature understanding
Yeah. You have to be in that way. Otherwise, you are going to cause trouble. No, but we are seeing all around us that there are problems. You understood? Where people are taking steps where there is a problem. That means you have taken some Svadharma without loka-sangraha.
preaching and what problem to ISKCON as a society and everything.
I mean, even if Krishna is pleased, that could be one thing. The point is, the legacy and what you leave behind, the mess that you leave behind, that is challenging. Yeah. That mess is more challenging. Krishna may be pleased. See, again, from this perspective, you may go back to Godhead, but then that's not the end of the story. Basically, we are seeing, that's the end of the story for yourself, in a very selfish way. That, I have gone back to Godhead with everybody around me dead. But that's not the real point, it doesn't really benefit anyone. Okay, anyway, I'll go ahead now. Yeah, then of course he was... Yeah, okay, so now I'm going to the next point. So he was saying that... he was making a very interesting observation in this world in the context of Arjuna. He was saying that Arjuna, in that part of the story in the Bhagavad, it happens that Arjuna goes to heavenly planets and gets Divyastra and he comes down. And when he gets Divyastra and he comes down, he wants to make a display to all the Pandavas. Pandavas are excited. They're asking, kya Divyastra mila tumko dikhao? They're saying, Narada comes and stops them, saying that you cannot make an exhibition like this. These Divyastras are only to be used in times of utter crisis or whatever. So he's saying the general Vedic paradigm is that facilities are, so he was making this point, even today he said people are not mean, facilities are mean. People are not so mean, facilities are mean. Mean means dirty, mean. Don't be very mean. Today. Mean means miserly. Mean means very dirty, third class. Yeah, in that context. I'll tell you in what context. So, he was saying that the facilities in the Vedic times, if you see, they were not very easy to get. And even if it was there, people didn't expand on it too much. He was giving an example, just like, for example, we see steel forging. So steel forging is used in Qutub Minar. Steel forging, preparing pure steel. It's a technology. They made it in Qutub Minar, right? Even today there's a huge, it's basically steel forging only. 2000 Ashoka pillar, 2500 years old. But that did not mean they expanded it so much that there was so much of steel forging going on and they didn't make a very big thing out of it. Because when you give too many facilities and these facilities can actually backfire a lot. So he was saying that, just like for example abortion. He was saying abortion is a mean facility which is available today. You know, and because of that mean facility being available, even if people are not very mean, they are tempted to do it. Or if it's the internet, so many things are available on internet nowadays so easily. Even if a person is not originally very dirty, the facility is so mean that that fellow gets contaminated and carried away. It happens with everybody. You understood this? Yeah, mean means low. Mean means third class. Cheap. So he was saying, just like British, he said that he was reading a book on British rule. He was saying that how British, one thing they understood when they came to India, he said in the 18th century that liquor should be made available very easily here to destroy these people. So one of the first steps of the British, he said, was to start about 25,000 liquor shops all over India. Because they wanted it to be available very easily, freely, so that people can drink easily, so that they can become contaminated very easily. So that means, he said, when the facilities are mean, then there is trouble. So he was saying that is what the Western world is facing now. Say for example, guns are very easily available in America. You go to one shop and you buy a gun. It's very common, right? In the US, you go to any supermarket, you can buy a gun over the counter. And we see many times people keep shooting each other, like, the child kills the mother, or, things like that keep happening. So he's saying the more such facilities, become like that, then, it becomes a problem. So he said, on the other hand, we see Arjuna, to get one facility, how much is tapasya? He was quoting this, that Arjuna had to chant some 10 crore Gayatri to get Brahmastra. That amount of tapasya he had to do to get Brahmastra. Because 10 crore Gayatris he had to chant. From wherever he got Brahmastra, I don't know that. So he said, you need tremendous self-control to get facilities. So he said, in the Vedic system, facilities are given only when you have a lot of self-control. Then you know how to use the facility. Without self-control, when you get facility, you only destroy yourself. And that is the modern world, he said. Yeah. And then, of course, he went into Krishna's marriage with, the 16,100 queens. He was saying that how when Krishna goes to get married, he said this was the original Garvapsi. Because these girls, they were all kidnapped by that Narakasur. And the Narakasur had kidnapped, Bhaumasur had kidnapped them. And nobody, their fathers would not take them back. He said, they tell Krishna that, at least previously we had a roof above our head. Now that is also not there. Now we are on the street. Our parents will not take us back. Nobody will take us back because society is like that. Even today, if you see, if somebody has kidnapped a girl and taken her into his place, who will marry that girl? Very difficult actually. If you see from that Krishna's perspective. So he was saying this, that Krishna did not marry 60,000 wives to his strength. He said many times we say that, oh, Krishna is all powerful personality God, isliye unhone itna shaadi kiya. He said, nahi. He said, literally in this world, strength brings whimsicalness. We also preach about Krishna like that, to display strength and opulence he married like that. He said that is not the reason why he married. He married because there was a social need. There was a need that these 16,100 girls had no shelter. And they cried to him for shelter. So he gave them shelter in the form of a husband. Krishna did not marry to show that he's supreme personality and he can stay in 16,000 palaces. I mean, that's a byproduct of it. But that was not Krishna's goal to show off. He said this is done only by modern world. So he was saying that in modern world people do so many funny things. He was saying that, he was quoting this very interesting statistic. He said that in Qatar, in 2020 they are going to have this FIFA World Cup. So for that, because it's very hot over there, the Europeans cannot play. So they have decided to make 150 air-conditioned stadiums. Pura stadium covered, air-conditioned. He quoted also, kitna to billions of rupees they are spending, dollars, in this whole project to make 150 air-conditioned stadiums for one football, this thing. So he said, this is whimsicalness. When you have too much strength, whimsically you spend money. But Krishna is not that kind of a personality, who simply, shows his strength whimsically. Only when there is a need, he does something. That means even Krishna accepts opulence when there is a need. So he said, Krishna accepted these 16,000 wives because there was a need. These girls did not have anybody. Krishna had to take them. And because Krishna took them, he gave them a facility. He gave them a facility. The facility in the form of everybody had a house, and Krishna expanded and stayed with everyone and satisfied everyone. So he was telling that, of course, he was saying that, all these palaces, even though all these 16,100 were devotees of Krishna, they were all in palaces and there was boundary also between them, he was saying. He was saying that boundary is necessary for relations because it gives you space. He said it is very important for people to have some boundaries. Yeah, similarly he said that, Krishna, asking Arjuna to, then Subhadraharan he spoke on, after all these marriages and Subhadra's marriage with Arjuna. He said when Arjuna was in Dwarka, Krishna advises Arjuna to wear the sannyasi dress and, run away with Subhadra. So he said generally wearing sannyasi dress like this to run away with a girl is not a good idea. But he said Krishna saw loka-sangraha, the benefit of people in general. Because Krishna could see that this marriage is a very important marriage. Because this marriage is going to produce ultimately Abhimanyu and then Parikshit. And Subhadra should be married to such a person like Arjun. So for that purpose, he didn't mind taking a strategy like this. Because this strategy was not Arjun's suggested strategy. It was Krishna's suggestion that you wear a sannyas dress because my brother is very much favorably disposed to sannyasis. Any sannyasi is there, then, because it seems the tradition in those times was that a sannyasi can be served either by a brahmachari or by a kanya, virgin girl, because they are very pure. And such a pure person only can serve such a pure person as a sannyasi. So Balram gets Arjun home and engages Subhadra in serving, who was a virgin girl in serving the sannyasi. At that, Krishna, and he said that, he was quoting, that Krishna warns that, see, you are engaging Subhadra and serving a young sannyasi. Balram said, no, leave it, he's a sannyasi, come on, we cannot doubt him. So he said, Krishna had already warned him. Later when it happened, see, I told you. Then he went on to Krishna's Shanti Dut, very nicely explained. He took a... Indra came as sannyasi. That was about Lok. Yeah, he told this. Indra came as sannyasi. That was for Svadharma, for his own benefit, but not loka-sangraha. People, it was not good for society. Because Prabhupada says, because Indra took on so many forms of bogus sannyasi, so many upper sampradayas of bogus sannyasis came into India. Prabhupada mentions that, right? But on the other hand, Arjuna's taking bogus form of sannyasi was very good. So this is in connection with what once we had spoken, if you remember, dharma as a consequence. That means, you remember that thing? Consequentialism and I'll not go into that. Yeah, that means a very important question in dharma is the consequence should be good. It's not just the act. The consequence should be good. Anyway, I'll not go into that right now. We had discussed that long back. We'll discuss that once again if needed. So he said then Krishna is a Shanti Dut. So he said when Krishna goes to Hastinapur as a Shanti Dut to make peace, he quoted this sentence, very beautiful sentence. He said, he tells Dhritarashtra, we want peace, but we are ready for war. He said, Krishna says that we want peace, but we are ready for war. He said this is an amazing statement by Krishna because it indicates that he was ready for peace, but not at the cost of being exploited. He's ready for peace, but not at the cost that I'll get exploited or my people will be exploited. Not at that cost. He said, Krishna tells Dhritarashtra that we want peace, but we are ready for war. So he said that, this is a balance between being idealistic and being practical. He's saying being too idealistic makes one feel that this world can be a hypothetical place. Because you can't be too idealistic. And those who are too much practical, they forget ideals. So Krishna is showing the ideal example to balance idealism and practicality. Because idealism is we want peace. That is ideal. Practicality means, but we are ready for war. That is the practical aspect of it. So he said that, idealism and practicalness, So Krishna is ready for war. Because that's what he says, that we want peace, but we are ready for war. It's not that we are afraid of war. That means we are not going to get exploited. Correct? So that is the mood that Krishna stands over here. Then he spoke a lot on the Pandavas. He said that, this is a very important concept actually. He said that the Pandavas were very hardworking or enterprising, but were dependent on Krishna. He said, many times as devotees, we get a wrong understanding. He said, in our neophyte condition, we bring devotional service in our hands and legs and become lazy. That means he was saying that in our devotional service, in our neophyte condition, we bring devotional service into our hands and legs. Because he said the ideal is in hands and legs, there should be a lot of enterprising and hard work. But in the heart, there should be a cultivation of dependence on Krishna, which was what the Pandavas were. They were very hard working and enterprising, in terms of hands and legs and in the external world. But in their heart, they always dependent on Krishna for success for anything they achieve. So he said that, behave as if everything is in your hands and depend on Krishna is a matter of your heart. So he was telling this, that if you see the dialogue between Narada also and the Pandavas, he was saying when Narada comes to the Pandavas during the time of Rajasuya Yagya, Narada is very practical about talks. He said, in the Bhagavatam, Narada talks only of love, but in Mahabharata, when Narada comes and he's talking to the Pandavas, he talks of capital investment, paying employees. He's asking so many questions about how he's paying the employees, how he's managing the kingdom, how he's managing the water, all kinds of details. So he was saying that he quoted Prabhupada, who told Satsvarup Maharaj that every scripture has its own mood and we should not overlap the mood of the scripture. And Prabhupada wrote in one letter saying that in the future I wish to write a commentary on Rama and Mahabharata as well. So the point is that every scripture has a mood and you cannot go against that. So he's saying that in one scripture you may find one personality behaving in one way, but that is not the only way that personality behaved. Like Narada in the Bhagavatam. If you see Narada in the Bhagavatam, you will see one particular way he is talking to Pandavas. In Rajasuya Yagya only. But in the Mahabharata, he is talking a little differently. So both have to be taken into account. If you want to see Narada Muni as a complete personality. Otherwise, if you see only the Narada of the Bhagavatam, you may think that, he was not considerate of other things. But it is not like that. He is asking all kinds of questions. But the point is, every scripture has its mood. And that is why some things are being emphasized or highlighted, or the focus light is on that. Like that. You understood the point, right? So in this context, in our personal discussion, he was also mentioning this important point that, our Bhagavat process or our main process which is there, it is a process of prema. It is a process of prema. It is a process. So he was saying that, even in the context of child raising, he was talking on this. He was saying that there are 5 koshas, which our Shastra says, right? What are the first kosha? Annamaya kosh. Second one, Pranamaya kosh. Third is Manomaya kosh. Fourth is Jnanamaya kosh. And fifth is Anandamaya kosh. No. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Mano and Jnana is the same. And Vijnana and Ananda. So the prema or love of God or the emotions towards Krishna that we are cultivating in terms of love, etc., this is addressing which kosha? Anandamaya kosh. It is addressing Anandamaya kosh. So this is important. But the other koshas are also important. As in, he was saying, especially in the context, in 2 contexts we will see now, the discussion. In development of children, he was saying in raising children, he said that if you give them an identity only of Anandamaya kosh, that you are devotee of Krishna and that is important. But if their other koshas are not well developed, they are never going to be a balanced child, balanced individual as they grow up. And they will always feel some kind of, frustration or, they can find several challenges. He gives several good examples. Should be properly, taken care of. The food that you eat, everybody has their own agenda. Prabhuji is talking about organic food over here. So in Annamaya Kosh, proper food, proper sleep, sleeping early, these things are very important from the Annamaya Kosh perspective, for children and for anybody. But the only difference is, these koshas, they can only be developed till the age of 15. After 15, you can only manage it. You understood? That means, education basically means developing these koshas nicely. All the 5 koshas have to be developed well. So the concept here is that till 15, education is in a way that, sadhana and sadhya. That means all the subjects that you study before 15 are, means. And the goal is to develop koshas. But after 15, the education should be such, when you are an adult, the subject is the goal basically. You understood? But in childhood it is actually opposite. So anyway, the point is that in any school education or any children taking care, the kosha development is very important. If it does not happen that time, even later it can never happen. I'll give you examples for that. Hold on a minute. So for example, Annamaya Kosh, the bodily development. If that does not happen properly in childhood, later it doesn't happen. We know once you have grown up, your body is whatever it is. You know, it's very difficult. Then you have to maintain it. Of course, for maintaining also you have to give it time. So that is Annamaya Kosh. Pranamaya Kosh means, it refers to the mind and the life air. That means from the child perspective, you know, having good avenues to play and, you know, breathe fresh air and do activities, do pranayam, things like that. You know, that is actually addressing Pranamaya Kosh. Because Pranamaya Kosh addresses the life air. That means, you know, to be very healthy in prana, you know, which is very important. Third is Manomaya Kosh. Manomaya Kosh means emotions, emotional development. That emotional development is also supposed to take place in childhood only. And if somebody's emotion is not properly developed in childhood, then there is too much emotional scar in a person's life in childhood. Even as an adult, that emotional scar continues. It's a fact. But in childhood, it can be taken care. You can address it. So in emotional, in Manomaya, many things come. Like for example, having the right emotions, even for example, for the society, country, etc. This also comes under Manomaya Kosh. You understood? Then there is Vijnanamaya Kosh, where there is the need for innovation and doing something. You know, everybody feels, na kuch karna hai mujhe duniya mein. You know, I want to do something. The sense of accomplishment, the sense of innovation, that is Vijnanamaya Kosh. And Anandamaya Kosh is the sense of love. You know, the prema, the love, you know, that is actually Anandamaya Kosh. So what we are talking from the Bhagavad perspective, it of course, I mean, the love and the emotions and everything which we talk, it's primarily in the Anandamaya Kosh, because that is the ultimate. I mean, we all say also that in other living entities only these two koshas are there, but in the human only the other three are there. That means the emotional development, innovation and prema actually happens only in the human form of life. In the animal form of life, there is only Annamaya Kosh and Pranamaya Kosh. Others are not there. They are only conscious of their body and survival, animals. But in the human only the other three things are there. But a balanced individual, he was saying, that means, you know, where everything is developed properly. So just now one second. That actually affects him as a personality. Are you understanding my point? See, we are all devotees, right? We all have a job. We are doing something in the world. What we are doing in the world also, we have to have a satisfaction in that. That is actually Vijnanamaya Kosh. That means where whatever you do in the world, you innovate, you do something that satisfies you. Whatever you do. It may be a simple thing like cooking. But in that, if you are actually good at it and you do it well, it gives you a satisfaction. And that has to be there. If that is not there, you don't feel satisfied. So we were discussing this even in the context of brahmacharis, that even brahmacharis, they were saying that even though they have joined temple and, you know, they are mainly addressing the Anandamaya Kosh in terms of love of God, development or whatever, but they need a field of action where they can innovate materially. That's a need. If that is not fulfilled, a person as a whole is not fulfilled. He is disappointed. Yeah, you understood, na? Yeah, correct. So they have that need. It's very important. You understand the point? So similarly with devotees. So in what context we were discussing all this is the Pandavas. The Pandavas in the Rajasuya Yagya, this whole discussion comes with Narada Muni, where Narada is asking in great detail questions about how the Pandavas are managing their kingdom. And there's a lot of conversation on this, how they are managing things, how they are supporting, how they are managing things. Because that fulfills this particular need. And similarly, even in all our devotees as well, that need cannot be underemphasized too much. That's what we are saying. See, again, it's a balance. See, our nature generally is to take to one side and forget the other. That's the unfortunate situation of humans, neophytes especially. So see, for example, we are all, for example, in our college, we joined college with a particular, we wanted career, this, that. When we came into ISKCON and we understood philosophy, we somehow inwardly thought all this is useless, though we should take to, you know, a Krishna consciousness. But it is not like that. Again, that does not mean that the Krishna consciousness and that Prema Pumarto Mahan is not important. That has its importance in its place. Because if that is not there, your Anandamaya Kosh is not going to develop. And ultimately, that is the goal of life. If you see, Anandamaya Kosh is at the highest level. So you cannot forget Anandamaya Kosha also, but at the same time you cannot too much de-emphasize on Vijnanamaya Kosha as well. Or bypass. You can't do that. You can't bypass Manomaya. You can't do any of it. So that is the delicate balance of life. And that delicate balance of life comes very nicely when you see all the scriptures together. So the Mahabharata, in some sections, in the section that Govind Prabhu was discussing, Narada and the Samvad, there this point comes, where Narada is asking great details and the Pandavas are answering how they are innovating and doing things in the kingdom, which is actually fulfilling that intellectual requirement, that Vijnanamaya Kosha, and giving them satisfaction at that level. And that is important for every devotee. You understand the point? In fact, why I'll tell you this, we had this discussion on this point as well in our train and personal discussion, that many times devotees, even when they give up their job or something, like we were discussing this, when you retire and whatever, even if you retire, actually our working outside in the outside world is not just for money. It is actually to a great extent to fulfill the Vijnanamaya Kosha as well. Because even suppose, let us say we have 10 crores today with us, and you give up the job, you need avenues where you can innovate and do something. If that is not there, you will be frustrated. You will not be happy at this level of existence. So of course, now whether the ISKCON society can provide such avenues to everyone or no, that's a different topic of discussion altogether. May or may not be there. For some people it may be there, for some it may not be able to give in general. But the fact is that if that is not there, a person actually goes nuts. He goes crazy. We had seen 2-3 cases also of 2-3 devotees who gave up their job early and and they faced later lot of special difficulties because they were not addressing something in that. Anyway, that's a little personal thing. I can't take examples. Yeah, go ahead. You can put it on again. It's on? Oh, since when? Okay. Yeah? Yeah, I'm basically talking from kosha development, simple and straight. All koshas have to develop. And development actually takes place in childhood till 15, 16, 17. After that you manage it. But you will have to manage it. Even in adulthood you will have to manage koshas. That's why we see, devotees have to manage physical level, they have to manage emotional level, intellectual achievement level. Yes, Acharya. No, it is very, I would like to disagree with it as in, it doesn't happen at all. Everybody wants challenges and taken. He was telling about Maharaj. He was telling us that how Maharaj by nature, of course he is doubting and preaching whatever, but he said Maharaj by nature doesn't like a very predictable life. He said that he wants that challenge and unpredictability. He was telling that, Maharaj always tells that, I don't want now to, I think we'll take a last point and I'll end. I mean, I'm not even 50% through, but I don't think we can. Yeah, he was telling another thing, loka-sangraha and this thing, Svadharma. He was giving an example that in Jarasandha, when Rajasuya Yajna now comes. Actually, let me tell you now, what I'm doing, I'm not, he of course narrated the pastime as well, but I'm not touching all that. I'm just taking the lessons and talking about it. So that's why it's a little crude and disconnected, my talk, but please bear with me for that. Because some things which are already known, I'm not talking about it. Like in terms of the actual pastime, Bhima goes and he kills Jarasandha, rips him apart. Obviously, all that was discussed. So he's saying that when the Rajasuya had to be done, Jarasandha had to be killed. So he was giving a background of that. He was saying how the Bhagavad describes that Jarasandha, so many Brahmins were in line because Jarasandha was known to be a very charitable person. So he was saying that so many Brahmanas were standing in line outside Jarasandha's house, taking charity and blessing him to have a long life. So he was saying that this is a classic example of Svadharma without loka-sangraha. He was saying that some Acharya gives commentary, the Madhvacharya's one disciple, one Pejavar Mat Swami, gives commentary on these Brahmanas in Jarasandha's assembly, saying that all these Brahmanas had Karna mentality. They were thinking only what is beneficial for them. They were not understanding what is beneficial for society. They were taking charity from Jarasandha, तो उनका स्वधर्म हो गया, उनको charity मिल गया, लेकिन उसको आशीर्वाद दे रहे थे कि लंबा जियो. So that was wrong. So he was saying this was also the mentality of the kings of India. He was making a very nice point, which he does in his book as well. He was saying, if you read history of India also in the last 1,000 years, he was saying the kings who struggled very hard in life, like we see Shivaji Maharaj and all in Maharashtra and all, they never had palaces. Because their life was such, there was no time only to build a palace. There was no time for personal comfort. It was a sacrifice. He was saying all the palaces that you see in India now today, like the Mysore Palace and all of Mysore King and all these palaces we see, these were all built by the British. He was saying these British pampered these kings. And they said privy purse and all they started, and they said, we will protect you a lot, don't worry, you enjoy life. They started Ranji Trophy. Ranji Trophy means cricket for kings. Rajaon ke liye Ranji Trophy. So he was saying that they pampered them a lot. And he said that these kings who were pampered, because they were getting their Svadharma fulfilled, their own need, he said they never even fought in freedom struggle. He said the history of India is that all these kings who were pampered by the British, they never objected to the British, because that was the British's purpose. They gave all the sense gratification to these kings to keep them happy. So saying this is an example of Svadharma without loka-sangraha. Just like these Brahmanas in the court of Jarasandha who were getting charity and who were blessing Jarasandha ke Ayushman Bhava, live a long life. They were not thinking, is our blessing in line good for the society? Is it good for the Jarasandha to actually have a long life? They were not thinking about that. Because so this is a contrary example, of Svadharma without loka-sangraha. Yeah, correct. He's right. So that's the point. Okay, I'll just take 2-3 more points. We will end. Nobody is getting late or something, right? We started late actually. Yeah.
This what you are saying is exactly what he was telling. That whenever we come to know something good, it's one thing we are happy. Mera ho gaya, I see myself. But we should also try to those who are capable, those who are leadership.
Yeah.
We should have, if not 50, if not more than 50%, at least 50% of our concern should be how to strengthen this.
Yes. Yes. Perfect. Okay, now we'll talk about intention in this thing. Now this is a very nice thing he was speaking about. I'll just take 2-3 more points and complete this theme, so that next time I'll not have to start with this again. Yeah, so he was telling again in the Draupadi Vastra, he was telling about intention in this thing. So he was saying that, after the Rajasuya Yagya, so okay, Jarasandha was killed, Rajasuya was accomplished, Shishupal Vad, वो सब बताया उन्होंने. उसके बाद after the Shishupal Vad and all was happened, what happens is that Narada comes and he tells Yudhishthir, my dear Yudhishthir, Kala will use you as an instrument and cause a huge colossal war which will kill all demons. तुम्हारे कारण बहुत बड़ा युद्ध होने वाला है करके नारद मुनि ने बता दिया युधिष्ठिर महाराज को. So Yudhishthir Maharaj, he said with all good intentions, he took a vow, I will never disobey my superiors. And he said this, because of this vow, when Dhritarashtra called him for gambling, not once but twice, he had to agree, because he took a vow. So he said that good intentions are not enough for good judgment and consequent good results in life. So he said that good intentions, the point is that Narada comes and tells Yudhishthir that Kala will use you as an instrument and cause a huge war. So Yudhishthir takes a vow that I will never disobey my superiors. So he said his intention was very good, but good intentions in life are unfortunately not enough for good judgment and consequent good results. Your good intention does not mean result will be good. Your intention may be very good, but the result can be catastrophic. So he is saying the result of this good intention of Yudhishthir Maharaj that I will not disobey my superior was the gambling match. Draupadi Vastraharan. That was the result of it. The result was terrible because your superior did not be very good. So you cannot make such a vow. So he was saying that. So anyway, so when he came to Draupadi Vastraharan, he was telling very nicely 2-3 things he was telling. One thing he was telling that Draupadi Vastraharan is not accepted by many scholars. Many scholars of Mahabharata do not accept Draupadi Vastraharan. They feel this to be an interpolation. They feel that according to the Mahabharata, only Draupadi is dragged into the assembly but not disrobed. Because the reason is, the scholars say, he reconciled it very nicely, so don't worry, I'll clarify the whole thing. So he said most scholars say that Draupadi, because see in Shastra, any pastime that happens in one place, there is reference in other place. There is reference in other place. So he said, reference of one event in many places creates more authenticity for that particular pastime. You understand the point? So Draupadi Vastraharan is one of the only incidents which has no reference anywhere else in the Mahabharata or the Bhagavad or anywhere. Nowhere else it speaks about Draupadi being disrobed other than that one chapter. You understood? Other places it only says Asat Sabhaya. Like Kunti also prays. Asat Sabhaya means a very, an assembly which was useless. So, but the actual disrobing is not quoted anywhere. Because in many other places it comes. Dushasan pulled Draupadi's hair and bottom. Even in Bhagavad it comes. Her hair was sanctified and it was pulled by Dushasan into the assembly. So, pulling the hair ka reference bahut jagah hai. Lekin Vastraharan ka kidhar bhi nahi hai. So, because of this, many scholars today, even I knew about it. I was very well aware of this fact that many academic scholars and many even Vaishnava scholars have this confusion. Was Draupadi sari removed or she was only brought into the assembly like that? So he was saying that No, that's what. The people challenge it, I'm saying. So let me complete it. So he was saying that the real reason why it is not referred elsewhere is because of sensitivity and culture. He was saying the sensitivity and culture is such that, that such an event, how can you even speak about it again and again? That, Draupadi's dress was, being removed actually. It's too much to talk about it. So he was saying that there is in our Shastras are extremely sensitive, to the culture. So it is mentioned Asat Sabha in general. That means to limit that impact of it. It is said that, okay, it was a disgusting assembly in other places. But how the assembly was disgusting, that details, it's too much to say. That's why I'll tell you, I'll give a modern example of this. If any of you know about in the 16th December 2012 when that, Nirbhaya, that girl, when she was gang raped and, she was, very cruel death. If you know that whole story, it is terrible. So recently, this one BBC reporter, what she did, she took an entire documentary of it. She made a film of it. Any of you are aware of it? This is recent politics. Yeah. So this BBC news channel, they made a whole documentary of it. They interviewed the rapist, this Mukesh Singh. And he's like a ghastly fellow. He just, he talks of things in it which are disgusting. He talks of, how they pulled out the intestines and, things like that. Very disgusting and cruel. That's the way they raped her actually. It was a very most cruel thing. And he justifies it, the rapist. Uska interview liya. And the lawyers also justified, saying that, girls only should be protected, girls should take care. Many things they say, which are very, very debatable and questionable. And what they do is they made it like a film, this BBC. So they interview the mother who's crying and who's saying what her daughter underwent. And then they go to the rapist and they go to the mother, the father. Pura usko ek kiya. So the Indian government banned it. So in India, you cannot access it on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and put that documentary, so YouTube has not allowed that video to be viewed in India from any Indian part. But outside India, you can view it. So there's a huge discussion in the media today on whether that documentary should be allowed or not allowed. There are many people who say it should be allowed. Let us see what the truth is. But there are many people who say it should not be allowed. They are saying that it is so terrible. Many common people in the world. How can you even look at it? So if you look at this particular incident from this view perspective of the Mahabharata, when I was just going through this incident recently, I was just thinking from the Mahabharata perspective. If you see, there's a sensitivity and culture. Yes, it happened with her. Okay, you should face the truth, but that doesn't mean that you bring it out in such a way and make a huge picture out of it, documentary, and describe all the ghastly details of how she was raped and killed. It's too much to take. So most of the people, so the Indian government, of course, finally decided that they are not going to allow it. So that decision is made by the Modi government. So he was talking in this point, sensitivity and culture. So he was saying this is the point, which our scholars miss out. They think that this is only a book which would have proper references everywhere. How can you say that? Then he was saying that the beauty of Draupadi is that she never rejected Pati Dharma. She again comes to this point. Draupadi never rejected Pati Dharma because she could have said, I don't care for my husbands. They put me on wage, I don't accept it. Draupadi didn't do that. She did not reject Pati Dharma. She did not reject her husbands even in such a situation, but she adopted Jiva Dharma. Jiva Dharma means the ultimate dharma of the soul, which is to call out to God in times of crisis. She called out to Krishna. A very interesting point. She was saying that all the other people in the assembly were stuck in dharma. Pandavas were stuck in the dharma of following their elder brother. Yudhishthir was stuck in the dharma that I gave my word. Bhishma was stuck in dharma that I had promised my father that whoever is the king, I will support him. Drona was caught up in his artha dharma. इसने मेरे को पैसा दिया, मैं इसके against कैसे जा सकता हूँ? So on. Everybody was caught in the dharma, but Draupadi was the only one who protected her existing dharma, pati dharma, because she didn't reject her husband. See, she could have said, I don't care for my husbands, forget it. I'm divorcing them or I'm going out from here. She didn't say any of it. She remained loyal to her husbands, but she just cried out to God. She took Jiva Dharma, the highest dharma. She was saying that there are many dharmas, Jiva Dharma is the highest dharma, and you don't have to reject your dharmas to take to Jiva Dharma. So Draupadi did not give up her pati dharma, but took to Jiva Dharma of calling out to God. Then we were saying that later in the Mahabharata, this story comes, that when Krishna comes to Draupadi in the forest, Draupadi cries to Krishna that no one helped me in such a situation, oh Krishna. She cried. Of course, Krishna helped, but still she says that, nobody came and helped me in that assembly. So Krishna consoles her by saying, 13 years from now, all the ladies of the Kauravas will loosen their hair. So he was saying that consoled Draupadi in the Mahabharata. So he was saying that how, it is like exactly how Arjun consoled Draupadi. By saying that, I will bring the head of Ashwatthama, and when you stand on that and take bath, then you will be happy. Then Draupadi became happy. So he was saying that, Kshatrani, as to he was saying that there is philosophy which you cannot bring out at times. He was saying that every time you cannot speak philosophy to people. So when Draupadi is saying that, I had to undergo such a trouble, Krishna told, don't worry, every lady will loosen their hair. That consoled her. Not the philosophy that, okay, see this misery as Krishna's grace or whatever, none of that stuff. Good that you took shelter of me, kuch nahi chala. Then of course, I'll take the last point. So I was saying that, we went into our topic of material problems, spiritual problems. Usme bahut discussion hua hamara. I mean, in class itself. What happened is that he was talking how Pandavas were extremely competent and they, actually worked very hard to solve all their issues. So he was saying that actually it is an offense to expect chanting of Hare Krishna to solve your material problems and give you material benefits. He said it comes under the 8th offense. He said the 8th offense, broadly speaking, is, Bhagavan naam ko kya, karma kaand ke saman samajhna, whatever, right? That means to consider it as a fruitive activity. One of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kaand. Karma kaand is for material benefits. So he said this is not our system. He says acharyas use it as a strategy to preach to people. He said when you preach to new people, we preach using strategy, saying that Hare Krishna se aapko mind peace milega, man ki shanti milegi, aise bahut kuch bolte. He said this is a strategy, but it is not our philosophy. He said this is not our philosophy. He said it may be Krishna's greatness that he may come in our material life and do something. But he said from our perspective as a devotee, you cannot approach Krishna for this. You cannot do that, or you cannot even expect that by my practice of devotional service, my material problems are going to get addressed. He said, chanting Hare Krishna has nothing material to offer, it is purely for love of God. That is the purpose of the chanting of Hare Krishna. It is not to solve your material issues in this world. So then, one second, I'll just complete this point. And I mean, we had a very nice discussion on this point as well. Our Dinabandhu Chaitanya Prabhu asked a very nice question. He asked him that, Prabhuji, we see in Prabhupada times that, there was no rain in some Hyderabad or somewhere, and, Prabhupada led Kirtan and there was rain. So isn't there a spiritual solution for a material problem? You get rain by chanting of Hare Krishna. So he said, you see, these are all museum cases. You cannot take a museum case as a standard case. He said there is a museum piece and there is a piece for sale. He said museum piece is an exceptional piece. एक आधा रहता है इसलिए वो म्यूजियम में पड़ा रहता है. But what you sell in the street is something common. So he said, he asked him, can you go on the street and tell anybody that it is not raining, I'll chant Hare Krishna and get rain? Can you do that? Can I do that? None of us can do that. He said, sometimes it may happen that a great devotee may chant and rain may come. But you can't generalize that like this and make it a standard case. He said, generally it is not acceptable. I'll tell you, that is a different thing again. That is at karma kanda level. That is at karma kanda level. That is not at the devotional level, if you see. That's a material strategy for a material problem. Yes. That is not worshipping demigods is the material strategy. Devan bhavetanena te deva bhavetu parasparam bhavayanta shreya parama vapsyata. That's a material strategy being spoken about. That's not a spiritual strategy. Right? So this was one thing that again we spoke of. Yeah, so one second, let me see if I have completed whatever I wanted. Okay, well, it looks like okay at this point. There are many other things, but we'll discuss that next time. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Questions, comments?
About that consequential dharma and things like that. I have one small question with respect to that. I don't know what you discussed there, but it's an important thing. We talk of action, intention, and now the third thing, consequence, right? So we have already discussed several things about actions and intentions, that how in devotional service it's intention which is more important and not the action itself and things like that. So can there be a reconciling statement for all three in terms of like what exactly is what? Because these are three clearly different things, right? Actions, intentions, and consequences. So can you just try to say one in terms of something relating these three?
Yeah, all three has its own level of importance. That means if only intention is there, but the Yudhishthir's promise, I'll always obey my superiors, then there is a problem. Your intention is good, but the consequence is terrible. Sometimes, somebody may say the consequence is good, for that I will do anything. But then again, the question is how much risk can you take? You understand what I'm saying, right? It's a question of... It's a consequence, yeah. So dharma as a consequence is the most important thing in that perspective. That means what is the after effect of what you have done? That's more important than many things. Yeah, we can discuss in college. We have nothing else to do. Then one second, Krishna spoke too many lies? What? I didn't understand. No, I'll tell you what I said again. No, one second. I said in Vrindavan, Krishna spoke many lies. But that was rasatmika lies. You understood? Rasatmika lies means, मैंने माँ का नहीं चुराया, मैंने मिट्टी कहाँ खाई. That was all rasatmika lies. Like to Radharani and वो तो इतना पास से सुनते दीनबंधु प्रभु से. कितने झूठ बोलते हैं ना Krishna. You understood? But that was all lies in rasa. You understood? Yeah, it is clear to both parties. The other party also is lying and pulling the leg, correct? If you see Krishna Leela in Vraja, yeah, those lies were all rasatmika lies. Using the first lie which was not for rasa but which was a strategy in connect, which was a genuine lie where he knew he's not going to come back and he told the gopis, I am coming back. You understood that? Yeah. Very good. That is what he was saying is Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. He was saying that is why Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy stops there. We generally stop there that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. And let us focus on that because in Gaudiya Vaishnavism the focus is love of God in the mood of gopis towards Krishna. Service in separation where Krishna is there also in the Aprakarta form but is physically not there, but we are serving him and in our service we are experiencing him. Are you understanding? This is our philosophy. So that is why the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas by and large don't go too much, like if you see Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu or any of these books, they mainly elaborate on what? The Vrindavan pastimes, right? You understood the point, na? Like we see Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is he talking about Satrajit and Samantaka Jewel and all? Or he's talking about Rasa Leela and what, how you understood the point. So, because that is the focus of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So that is where we stop over there. You understood? So that Krishna spoke, what we are saying is Krishna spoke many lies, but all those lies were rasatmika lies. So it was all excusable or whatever, but this was one lie where he actually had to say a lie as a strategy. You understood? To protect the gopis' life, because though he knew I'm not going to come back over here. Because he has so much work to do outside. Which it took 100 years of his life it took to accomplish all these things. Correct? That's the point. Very good. So you have hit the nail again. That is again. So dharma, that means Krishna coming as a avatara Purusha, his own Svadharma to establish dharma. That is much, and that is in line with the loka-sangraha. It may have not been in line with the pure devotees of Vraja, but that is from a different perspective. See, they are all Nitya Siddhas who have just come to play a pastime. So they are not, you understood? Krishna's role for the world by and large is the primary thing. Na? See, if he's there only to play with the Gopas and Gopis, that he can do in Golok with them. Yahan aake kyun ye sab kar lega? If you're doing only that, you understood, 125 years of only pure pastimes and go back, yahan aake kyun kiya ye sab? Here, to do something in relevance to the world. Is that okay? Yeah, good. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. I consider, I agree. See, we were talking mainly from the development of the previous ones. I agree with you. The Anandamaya course is basically a function of the soul. It's connected to that. You develop pure love of God. I agree with you. But the only why I was telling that in the context that even as devotees, if the other things are not addressed, we see challenges. That means you understood the point, na? So you cannot de-emphasize that, but at the same time, see, that is where the balancing is. You can't, reject it, and you can't under-emphasize devotional service. That is the most important thing we are all here for. But at the same time, the other things also, if they are not there, you will not be a satisfied individual. So there is a problem. Correct? Yeah. And children, it's even more relevant because, that is a stage when they are growing up. So at that stage developed. So if you don't give the right kind of, see, I'll tell you that example of GGHS that I was quoting earlier, the school example, that nationalism, that example, it is important because these concepts can come only when you are a child. You understood? Like all of us also, when we were children, didn't we have nationalistic conceptions and feeling of love for our country? Sabko tha na? We all had that or no? Did we grow up with the feeling that Bharat mera desh hai? You know, we all felt that. Of course, when we came to the Anandamaya Kosh understanding of what is pure devotion, love of God, Golok of Vrindavan, then we understood, okay, Baba, ye bahut hi chota hai. But that has its importance in a place. You can't throw it away. If you throw it away, there will be a problem because there is an identity crisis of an individual. Because if a child grows up with such identity only at this level and not at the other levels, what if he is not so fit at this level? Or even if he is fit at this level, he needs other levels. He is deriving some nourishments from there. That is not fulfilled, he is going to be in trouble. That's the point really. You understand the point, right? So that is what we were talking about. See, it takes a lot of maturity to get this. That's why, that's why he was saying that in the school, they had even such a performance where the children actually showcased that we have to do something for our country. Which from a standard, from an ISKCON perspective, if you see, it looks like out of place. ये क्या दिखा रहा है यार? ये तो हमने पहले फेंका था. No, फेंका नहीं था. We understood something higher. But this is also important in its own place. It is very important. Without that, a complete individual doesn't come out. Then you will see weird things. He becomes a hippie or it does strange things. Yeah.
In the same connection, I just have one more comment, and I want to rectify whether it's correct or not. One is the development of the four koshas or five koshas, is it also connected to development of more of goodness in one? Because are these development of five koshas in one sense related to developing of more of goodness?
No. It is development of a balanced individual. Of course, that balanced individual is in Sattva only. I agree with you. It is in Sattva only. It is a balanced individual in Sattva only. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. It is in Sattva. Vedas don't talk anything about Rajo and Tamo.
Now my point is that as a testimony to this, that how, in fact, even when we become devotees, those devotees have actually come through these nice organic growth. Like as you said, in our childhood we had those elements. We see that they are more stable and more all-rounded devotees as compared to those who have, suddenly come, like Prabhupada says, that, to come to goodness and then to transcend.
Yeah.
Like a launch pad.
Yeah, perfect.
They are related, these things.
Yeah, related. Yeah, that went against his family also. Yeah, so that's a negative example. That's what we are seeing. Na? Yudhishthir's that vow that I will follow superiors went against his own wife and brothers. What to speak of others? Society to pura loss hi ho gaya na. They lost. No, It's not like that. Yudhishthira, see, it's not about a person. It's about the aspects. Yeah, I understood. Some things you understand only in retrospect after a long time. Good question. The answer is going to be tough, but the point, I understood. Your point is basically this, that all our actions, what they are actually going to have an impact on the people around us, you may not understand it immediately. But at least maybe I can say that at least when you understand, you can do something about it. Like Bhishma and all was understanding what is the result of his action, right? He was seeing it. He was seeing that Draupadi being disrobed. Or Yudhishthira was seeing that his obedience to Dhritarashtra, what is the result of that? His wife is being stripped. You understood? That is the purpose of history. Yeah, they have learned the things. No, but I'm saying that even they, at some point of time in their present tense also, they could see it. But, they couldn't see that larger picture at that time. They were stuck with their own, Svadharma and their cherished goals. I think maybe we can just ask some friend or something like that. That is one thing, if there is a critical decision or something. I don't know. I understood. That is yenamam upayantite. How to come back to me. Krishna says yenamam upayantite. Krishna doesn't say anything else. Na? What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Dadami buddhi yogam tam yenama upayantite. How you will come back to me, I will give you that intelligence. Krishna doesn't say I will give you intelligence of how to deal with your wife or something like that. That way he is telling. Correct, na? Yeah. That is correct. That is correct. No, that is correct. That is correct. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Some discrimination, power, and all that.
To this Svadharma and loka-sangraha you were telling. Svadharma, sometimes what happens, I have my own Svadharma, and in loka-sangraha there are many category or groups, you can say family, society. Yeah. So I may have my own Svadharma, and what I wanted to do may have good for conflicting, or in general it may be good for the society but may not be good for the immediate family. So in such a cases, what should prioritize? Where to give the priority?
I understood what you're saying. I understood. Like there are some people who, work very hard for society, but their whole family is only, like we see Gandhi also. He fought so much for the country or whatever, but his family life and all, his children and all, were by and large, whatever. Yeah, understood.
And our immediate family. I have a point there. Right? Family can be rejected for. This is again same thing. Higher duty versus lower duty, which point you talked about. So that cannot be condemned also blindly. If that person is very happy and he is not feeling any disappointment or frustration on any angle.
Ideally, if everything can be synchronized, is good as far as possible. That's the basic. See, sometimes it may not work because of some other reason also. But ideally, from our perspective, we should see how all these things can be synchronized.
Immediate duty, for the sake of higher duty, if you are not at peace, that means you were not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Somebody said that point that I think about my share. They are supposed to start with the fact that this person is wife witness God. That's why we are not God. Because they can never do this. This is an impossibility. We can never synchronize everything. Something is wrong to fail anyways.
Yeah. See, that's what. See, 100% perfection doesn't come in a human being. It's correct. But still, we have to try as much as possible. See, that doesn't mean that you don't do anything. So, I was saying that like Yudhishthir, somebody may say Yudhishthir ने गलत किया. अरे ये गलती किया लेकिन 99% सही किया ना. दुर्योधन ने 1% सही किया, 99% गलत किया. Yeah. No, once again, we have to take shelter of Krishna, but that is at the heart level. But your hands and legs, you have to do whatever is needed perfectly. He's not going to do that. Yeah, somewhere something that is understood. That is understood. But it's understood. But as far as possible, you just see that. Yeah, that is understood. Anybody else? Anything? Not like that. Prabhupada applied it to the Americans. Prabhupada said that what is the use of you being American if you can't do anything big? American means to do something very big and fantastic. So many times Prabhupada told Americans, he instigated their spirit of nationalism by saying that what is the use of being American if you cannot do a big thing? कितनी बार प्रभुपाद का statement है उनके American disciples को. I want you to do big things. American thing means a big thing only. No, one second. That's what I'm saying. British, Americans, Europeans, they have this tendency of doing a very big thing, right? मैं और आप पाकिस्तान में तो नहीं बैठे ना, भारत में बैठे ना. मेरा पॉइंट है कि भारत में बैठ के we feel that, you understood. It has to be there. That is what he was addressing. होना चाहिए तुम्हारे स्कूल में, होना चाहिए. Yeah, India is a place. See, India is a very special place. But I am saying, even with the Americans, Prabhupada applied that philosophy. उनका patriotism को जागृत किया. So India though is very easy, na. At least let us think about me and we can think about ourselves first. Correct. You have an advantage of being in a country where it is there. So that should be there in our kids.
Something like that, na sannyasi or what you wanted to become sannyasi and somebody said, go get lost because you can't cry for your wife or your river.
Anybody else? Anything else to say? Like that. See, I'm not talking about the means. अभी सारे जहाँ से अच्छा सुनने चाहिए नहीं वो point है अलग है. But the point is in principle. It is a principle. The principle is that in Manomaya Kosh, one effect of Manomaya Kosh is affection for the country, which cannot be avoided. That's what I'm talking. We are talking principles here. How to implement that? That is other thing. होना चाहिए.
India Rising festival, the theme was that only because we attended this.
Yeah, they did that only in that whole festival and to connect to a larger set of audience. Correct?
So we are just again continuing what we did last time. So if you remember, from our Yatra to Dwarka and Somnath, what we had learned from there. So I'll just briefly revise what we did last time and then we will, take the next part of it. So does anybody remember what was the key theme that we discussed last time?
Loka-sangraha and Svadharma.
Very good. So at least the theme is remembered. So what was that theme basically? Anybody would like to give a definition for it? Probably you raised your hand first.
No, actually I just know the example.
Hey, what does it mean? What does Svadharma and loka-sangraha mean? What was that connotation?
Benefit of the others, loka-sangraha. Other people and Svadharma means.
Yeah, that means you do something for yourself as your duty, and loka-sangraha means benefiting people. The people could be at different levels: family, society, nation, humanity, entire universe, or whatever. The concept is that these two should be in line with each other, harmony. That is Svadharma. That means what we decide to do, should be in line with, the other thing. If it is not in line, then there is a problem. So quickly we will just revise the examples. So what were the examples that we saw where it was not in line, where somebody's Svadharma was not in line with loka-sangraha? If somebody did something which was not in line with the benefit of family, society or something from the Bhagavatam. Yeah, quickly someone, yes.
We discussed about Bhishma.
Bhishma, very good. Bhishma was one example. He took a vow, which was Svadharma, as in, whatever. It was from his and father's perspective. Please remember, that was there, that Svadharma was in the connotation of the family. As in, but the king has a larger role to play. In terms of Govinda. What was that? But how did it go up? मुझे समझ नहीं क्या हुआ हाँ गिर गया मेरा कॉलेज का याद है लास्ट ईयर में कॉलेज there was a fan 15 kilo weight iron fan of 1980 that fell 2 inches from my head so it seems that you know ऐसा इधर ही गिरे सुदर्शन चक्र जैसा okay so this was one Bhishma understood na his vow was in the context of the father's enjoyment or whatever but in terms of the loka in general this thing it created such a danger as in you know yeah okay very good fun example any other example quick
When Yudhishthira Maharaj heard from Narad Muni that he will be the cause of war, he took the vow that I will never disobey to my
yeah his Svadharma actually yeah. His own vow it caused a catastrophe in terms of the loka okay fine very good I didn't say that but yeah
Rukmani's brother he took the decision of
yeah very good Rukmani's brother took a decision of getting his sister married to Shishupal Svadharma for his own friendship and you know political gain but from the loka perspective from the even the family perspective no see please remember this loka-sangraha at different units it could mean differently that means at one unit it could be family and another you understood so in that case Rukmi was an individual who took a decision for his own benefit for alliance with Shishupal but then there the loka referred to the family and the family itself was not supporting it because Bhishmaka and Rukmani and nobody was interested in their marriage correct so there the loka refers to the family and the swa refers to the individual in Bhishma's case the swa represents the family and the loka represents the kingdom. Are you understanding? So in any case, the loka represents, the swa represents a smaller unit and the loka represents a larger unit. Correct? So very good. We have already got 3 examples till now. Any other example we saw last time? We saw some more actually. So very good. The most important was Satyajit. So the Satyajit Svadharma. So what was the Svadharma? He got the Yamantaka jewel to get gold and he was doing puja of it. But loka-sangraha it created so much catastrophe actually. I think that's what Krishna told him that why don't you give it to the king? A whole kingdom will benefit from it. Krishna's advice was pertinent because what it meant is that any good thing, if it is with the king, then everybody gets it. But this fellow wanted to keep it with himself and you know, that means his Svadharma, you know, went against the loka-sangraha and it created challenge. One more example we had seen last time where it violates, anybody remembers? Dharma Krishna Prabhu is remembering a lot, somebody else who remembers something.
Subhadra.
Yeah, that was also. He made a decision on a swa basis, on because he was happy with Duryodhana, but the family itself was not happy with it. Yeah, that was a challenge. Very good. Something like that. Very good. One more example. At least 2 more. Very good. Very good. Very good. The Brahmanas who were receiving charity from Jarasandha were blessing him, Ayushman Bhava, live 100 years. Because their Svadharma was being taken care of, they were getting money, but they were not thinking that if Jarasandha lives long, there is going to be problem. Very good, yes, so many examples have come up. These are all from the Shastra. Very good, fantastic. Now let's go to the positive examples. Which were the examples that we saw where somebody's Svadharma was in line with loka-sangraha? One second. Yeah, very good. Akshay Patra, yes. Yudhishthir got this Akshay Patra from sun god and that basically was actually not for the family. Very interesting. It was not just because the 5 of them wanted to feed themselves, he prayed to the sun god. He prayed to the sun god for Akshay Patra to benefit those thousands of Brahmana students who had come along with them, behind them. Unke liye tha. It was for loka. You know, and his soul was also satisfied. Very good. That was one example. Any other example? Okay, coming back to you.
Vow that I will not marry anyone.
Yeah. Very good. And but Krishna's marriages were all loka-sangraha only. You know, like we were discussing this point as well. So this point is connected to our second point as well, where we discussed Krishna as a social reformer, how he went against prevailing social customs. You know, as in the 16,100 girls who were with Narakasura and all that, nobody would have accepted them, but Krishna accepted all of them. You know, because he knew that these people are not going to have anybody. So, you know, because in those days tradition was very strong. That if a woman is outside home like this kidnapped, nobody will marry her. So like that. Very good. That was one thing about Krishna. Anything else?
Arjuna, he became a sannyasi to get married to Subhadra.
Yes, that was on Krishna's advice. Svadharma also was satisfied because you know, Krishna knew that Subhadra has a liking for Arjuna. So everything, they would like each other, so that Svadharma in that husband and wife thing was also satisfied. And Loka as well, because Krishna knew that Parikshit and everybody are going to come from this dynasty only. So the whole world will also benefit. So they as a family will also benefit, so and the Loka is also benefited. Very good.
Opposite of that was that Prithu, that Indira coming for Prithu.
Indira coming for Prithu. That was opposite. Very good. That was opposite. Where he did a Svadharma of taking sannyas robe to sheer away to maintain his world record of 100 years, but it created a wrong loka-sangraha, as in people started. Very good, fantastic. So there are so many examples like this, if you see. For and against.
One question, Vijay.
Yeah.
Two questions actually. I just want to clarify. One thing is where this Draupadi's marriage comes. That means Svadharma and loka-sangraha. How you can just map it out. Because they keep the this thing up. Pandava comes in that marriage things. So how you can just find out?
Who comes?
Pandavas comes in that marriage. That is
Draupadi's wedding.
Draupadi's wedding.
Well, see, the Svadharma of Kunti had to be protected. The Svadharma of Kunti was that her word never went false. That was the basic thing, right, in the Mahabharata. Kunti ke shabd kabhi jhoote nahi hue. So that had to be protected. And then, so for that, a situation was done which traditionally went against culture of society, but Vyasa and others say that this had to happen this way for so many reasons, in terms of the past life of Draupadi and this and that and whatever. And ultimately that marriage was glorious, as in, it is because of that marriage only the whole Mahabharata happens actually, if you see. And Mahabharata had to happen. So if you see, that marriage was a very important marriage in terms of the entire Mahabharata event, because that is the central theme, right? Because the Pandavas being married to Draupadi, so many things wouldn't happen. Yudhishthira putting all these people on gambling match, so many things.
Positive or negative?
Positive. See, Draupadi's marriage with the Pandavas is a highly positive event for the welfare of society, because the Pandavas, that marriage which was there, it led to good only, right, for the society. No question.
And other things, when Krishna approached Karna, he was telling before the war, these are your this thing. So there you follow the Svadharma.
Yeah, that didn't benefit society, correct. Karna was just following the Svadharma of faithfulness to Duryodhan, but his Svadharma of friendship with Duryodhan did not benefit anybody actually, did not even benefit Duryodhan very well. Because if I had given up Duryodhan's company, Duryodhan's money would have been spoiled.
That is a positive example.
No, that's a negative example. Where somebody did his Svadharma without taking care of the benefit of people. Because of Karna's friendship to Duryodhan only, so many wrong things happened, right? He is sticking. Because if he had come this side, equations only would have changed. So many things would have changed. And perhaps Duryodhan would have never fought. He was fighting on basis of these 2-3 people only. Karna, Drona and Bhishma and all these people. If they would have swapped sides and said, we are not going to fight for you, he would not have guts to fight against these people. He was fighting on their strength. That's a wrong example for you. Yeah, okay, so this is one good point that we discussed. It made a lot of sense. So I think we also discussed that how this makes a sense in our own homes. That whenever even we take a decision in the family, whatever decision we take in the family, it should not only be nice for us, but it should also benefit the other people in the family. Like in modern times we see somebody decides to, go somewhere to Antarctica to earn a lot of money. And the family doesn't benefit so much by that. So that's a wrong example again, in a smaller unit.
Sometimes husband is working in one city.
Yeah, so many are there like that nowadays. Yeah, so anyway, those are all wrong examples. And that's why everything breaks also. Their soul is the individual and loka is the family. And that also does not benefit.
The basic level itself is...
Yeah, basic level itself is this thing. Very good. Okay, good. So these things we discussed in detail. Well, so this was one major topic. Then the other topic, which I am not going to revise too much in detail to save time, was that Draupadi is speaking. That means there are various types of dharma we have, and how you should stick to all those dharmas. Like if you remember, we were talking about Draupadi, how even in great time of catastrophe, she stuck to her Pati Dharma as well as she took shelter of Jiva Dharma. Jiva Dharma means calling out to God. Pati Dharma means the duty of a wife to the husband. Even in that situation, she did not disown her husband, saying I have nothing to give and take with them. She remained chaste to them, but at the same time called out to God. On the other hand, we had all the other wrong examples like Gandhari was someone who when their children did wrong, she actually went against God, as in, unnecessarily she cursed Krishna, because Gandhari's cursing Krishna is not taken very nicely by the Vaishnavacharyas. They say that she could not have done that, considering the kind of woman she was. But she could not control that urge. She kind of, it just slipped out of her mouth or whatever. Anyway, we'll be talking about that again today. Okay, this was one thing. Another very important thing that we discussed last time, if you remember, was in the context of urban lifestyles. I think this came in Dwarka when Govinda was speaking about, when Krishna goes to, Krishna along with Satyabhama goes to heaven, and Satyabhama likes that Parijat tree, Krishna lifts one tree itself, right, without asking India. So Govinda was saying that Acharya explained that Krishna was from Vrindavan, and Brajavasis don't know too many formalities, like please give me, thank you, sorry, ये सब नहीं बोलते बोले ब्रजवासी. अच्छा लगा तो ले लेते. So Krishna was a very simple, personality, and he was not so sophisticated urban fellow to ask permission and say thank you, please, and sorry and all that. He just took it away and came, in his own Braj style. So he said that Indra, was handpicked and so Govinda was saying Indra was from Bombay. He was from Mumbai. He was a proper Mumbai. So he fought with Krishna, and there was a big drama over there. So in that context, he was basically telling a lot of urban lifestyles, where he was saying that life without challenges, becomes very. So we were talking about this, right? Last time, if you remember, predictability and unpredictability. If life is too predictable and monotonous, then it unnecessarily brings sinful thoughts to a person. So whereas he was saying that Krishna's life was always unpredictable only, because Krishna was always going here, there. He was. In fact, one word Braja, he said, Braja also means to move. Means to constantly be on the move, he said. That means not sticking to just one thing in a very predictable and monotonous manner. So he was quoting this psychologist in Bombay, one famous person, who did a lot of analysis with children in Mumbai in the age group 13 to 15, and found out that most of these children who are in upper middle class families, they feel bored because of predictable behavior. Like 15 years they've stayed in Mumbai, very good family also, but no challenge, because everything in life is very stereotyped and regular. So most of these children reported desires to run away from home. They were looking for opportunities, boys and girls, to run away from home. So the psychologist was sharing with their parents that it is better if your child has such desires, send them to a hostel at least. They will, in a regulated way, they'll go somewhere, study and come back. Otherwise, they may do something wrong, like that in that context. So basically we were discussing about urban challenges in this particular context. But anyway, so these were some things that, we discussed in that context. Okay, good. So this was in the Dwarka, this thing what we had learned briefly. Now we're going ahead to Somnath. So in our yatra, what happened? We stayed a couple of days in Dwarka, and then we went to Somnath. So Somnath is what? It was actually only 240 kilometers or something, but the roads are pretty bad. It took 8 hours bus drive, a very long drive to Somnath. But Somnath, a very beautiful place. The Shiva, the Jyotirlinga which is there, the temple of. How many of you visited Somnath other than of course? Okay, many have gone. Good. So you remember that place, how the Shiva temple is, like if you stand looking at Lord Shiva temple, then you see the ocean on the other side. So it is just bang on the Arabian Sea actually. And that is why it was attacked as well so many times. Because it was very easy for the invaders to come in, directly from the Gulf across the border, across the sea. So anyway, so Somnath also is the place where, Krishna, so 2-3 things were important over there. One was the pastime of Sudama, because Sudama belonged to this Porbandar, which is again very close to Somnath actually. On the way to Somnath only this Porbandar comes. And that's just 2 hours from Somnath. And that was the place of Sudama Brahman. So that was one pastime that he discussed in detail. And also some pastimes related to the, the final pastimes of Lord Krishna. So one thing he said is that, nothing in the material world is eternal. And everybody has to get out of the material world. And he was giving this very interesting point that everybody becomes irrelevant at some point in the material world. So for that he quoted, I think I told this last time also, he quoted this beautiful pastime of Nityanand Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In Chaitanya Bhagavad that pastime comes, right? Where Sachimata has this dream where she is making an offering to Krishna Balaram and Nimai and Nitai are coming and driving them away, saying that, this is our age now, it is our time, your time is over now. So there is some small quarrel. So it comes in Chaitanya Bhagavad. I think all of us have heard this from Maharaj, this last time. Of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu quarreling with Krishna and Balaram, who will take that offering. So basically they tell them that after samay hoga abhi hamara samay hai in Kali Yuga. And when Sachimata reveals this to them, they are very happy actually. They say that yes, this is a fantastic dream. So that pastime, what it signifies is that everybody becomes irrelevant at some point of time, including avatars and Supreme Personality of Godhead also, because in terms of a particular time, place, circumstance, somebody becomes more relevant than others. So he's saying that though we become irrelevant, still the legacy that we leave behind is eternal. So that is something that Govind Prabhu highlighted a lot of. So just like a father and mother are temporary, they are not eternal because they die and go away. But the parenthood and what they offer, that is of eternal legacy. That is always existing. So the same thing. Yeah, good. So basically he was telling us that Somnath is again connected to the final pastimes of the Lord, because Lord Shiva is always associated with destruction. And because that is eternally the place of Lord Shiva, the Prabhasa Kshetra is also situated there only. Because Shiva has to be there whenever there is any destruction. And even Durvas Muni has to come there. So he was telling that how Durvas Muni, he comes whenever, because Durvas Muni is an expansion of Shiva. And whenever there is any kind of destruction, whenever the Lord has to disappear, both Ram Leela also, if you remember in Rama, and Durvas Muni only comes. Where he basically informs Ram that, we know that pastime, right? Where Durvasa comes and tells Ram that I want a private meeting with you, and if anybody comes in the middle of the meeting, you should kill him. So Lakshman is ordered to, some Brahman comes actually, the time factor comes in the form of a Brahman and tells this to Lord Ram, that I want a personal meeting with you, and if anybody comes in the middle, then he should be killed. So Ram appoints Lakshman to stand outside, and that time Durvasa comes. And inside the time factor, who is personified Brahman, that Brahman who is there, he tells Lord Ram that your time is up now, please ascend to your own abode. So Durvasa comes and they immediately want to meet Lord Ram. So Lakshman says, oh, then Lakshman goes in the middle and tells Durvasa has come. So then anyway, he meets Durvasa and all, and meanwhile Lord Ram understands that, oh, I had promised that fellow that, if anybody comes. So Lakshman only came. So he banishes Lakshman because that is as good as killing. And then the Lord also leaves. So basically, Durvasa comes there also, and here also it is said that he comes because when Samba and all those other Yadu princes, they are making fun of the Brahmanas, Durvasa is said to be over there. When they make Samba as a pregnant woman and ask, to determine the sex of the child. I think this is there since a very long time. To determine whether it is a boy or a girl. So that time again, Durvasa is very much there in that particular situation. And because basically it will give you an iron lump which will kill all of you. So anyway, so those things also happen over there. So we will initially talk a little bit about Sudama, because he mentioned many wonderful things from Sudama's pastimes. He said that Jiva Goswami explained that Sudama was proud of his renunciation, and so was his wife. But for the sake of children, she wanted him to ask Krishna for some wealth. So it said that okay, so Sudama thought that okay, anyway. So he was telling again that Sudama's poverty and hunger was Svadharma, but it was not leading to loka-sangraha in the family. Because the family was not happy with it. The children were not happy, and consequently Sudama's wife was also not pleased with Sudama's austere lifestyle. So that austere lifestyle had to be given up because it was not conducive for the family development. So he was again connecting Sudama's situation to our Svadharma loka-sangraha concept. That his own fasting was not conducive to it. So he said that when Sudama came through the first door, Krishna immediately saw him and Krishna welcomed him. Krishna came out to welcome him. Krishna came out to welcome him. And in fact, Krishna also goes out to send Sudama off when Sudama leaves. So he was just sharing about, the Indian culture where if anybody comes, how people welcome guests at home and how they send off. So he was telling very nice things. He was saying that, sometimes as brahmacharis, they would travel to Rajasthan, to places as for some Harinam Sankirtan party or something. And they were saying that there were occasions when there were village sarpanch who would welcome them and would send them off. And to send them off, they would come out of the village and they would cry also, the sarpanch and all these people, to send off the brahmacharis. And not that they knew each other before or anything, but I think that was the culture in India. That you meet somebody, then you are, so open-hearted and you welcome them very nicely and you send them off also. This is something that you cannot find anywhere in the world actually. This type of culture, it is there in the Vedic tradition. So then he was talking about Sudama and Krishna. He was saying that Sudama and Krishna, the whole speciality of their relationship was service and relationship. So he was saying that service should enhance relationship and relationship should enhance service. So both should be there. So that is why when Sudama and Krishna are sitting together, they are remembering their time of service together into their Guru. So he is saying that without service, relationship is only material. And without relationship, service is only impersonal. If there is no relationship and something is done, it's very impersonal. And so we had a talk about impersonalism just now. We are sending a letter, there is a service but there is no relationship. So he himself described it as an impersonal way of reaching it out. Because whenever there is any service without relationship, it is impersonal. And so basically that was the point. So Krishna and Sudama, holding hands, doing service. And when they did this service so nicely, they were benedicted by Sandipani Muni. And the benediction, because whole night they stayed, in the forest, in the rain, not understanding where is waterland. So Sandipani Muni blesses them that whatever you learned, it will always be with you. And it's a wonderful blessing. Because most of us, in our life, the challenge is we learn so many things, but when we need it, it is not there with us. I think that is something that all of us can relate to in our lives as well. It's so much philosophy we learn, so many good things we hear and learn. But unfortunately, when we have to apply it, we forget that. Or we are unable to apply that. So that is the tragedy of most people in general. And the wonderful blessing to get. That whatever you learn, it will be with you when you need it the most. So the opposite of that is, who's the opposite of that? Karna. Who had so many things, knowledge, but the curse that he had got out, when you need it the most, the knowledge will go away. So to the extent in our own lives also, the philosophy that we hear or speak or whatever, if it doesn't come to our aid at times of our crisis, when we are facing the real challenges in the world, to that extent our knowledge is similar to Karna's knowledge in terms of its practicality or whatever. So anyway, so he said gaining skills is not important, but the ability to use it at the right time is the most important thing. Even if you know less, if you can use it at the right time, it's actually amazing. Then he also quoted Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, very beautiful pastime. He said that, how when Sudama, then it is said that, when Sudama was staying in Dwarka for some days, Sudama did not have cloth because his cloth was all torn. So Krishna gives him a yellow dhoti of his. And Sudama wears that yellow dhoti. But when Sudama is about to go away, Krishna takes away that yellow dhoti also from him. So basically Krishna leaves Sudama back in the same state as he had come to Dwarka. Then that is given in the Bhagavatam. That Sudama, जो dress पहन के द्वारका है, वही dress से चला गया. सिर्फ only thing that flat rice that he got, puffed rice, that was taken away by Krishna. He went back in the same condition, without any change. Vishwanath Chakravarti comments on this by stating that the yellow dhoti which he was wearing as long as he was in Dwarka, when Sudama went, Krishna took it back. What was Sudama's feeling and what was Krishna's feeling? Is that Sudama's feeling was, oh, so nice, Krishna took that yellow dhoti back from me. Otherwise, had I gone in the forest back home wearing this yellow dhoti, some robbers would have thought I am a rich man and would have attacked me for money. And actually I don't have any money. But seeing such an opulent dhoti, people would have attacked me. Krishna is so kind, he knows that I don't have any money. Unnecessarily, I should not wear an opulent dhoti and walk on the road. That is why Krishna took it back. That was Sudama's thought process. And he says Krishna's thought process was, my devotee wore this yellow dhoti, I have to take it back so that I can worship it. So Krishna, thinking like that, took back the yellow dhoti so that he can keep it on the altar and worship it daily because it was his devotee, worn dhoti. So both of them were thinking differently. So in any case, Sudama went back. Then he said that when Sudama came back to his home, we all know that, his home is not there, his home is a big palace. And Sudama's wife is coming out. So Acharya is was saying that V.Shrikanth Thakur, he gives this purport actually. He says that when we say that Sudama's house had become a palace, it is reasonable to assume that Sudama's wife had also transformed. That means, because she was a very skinny lady, and now she is wearing opulent clothing and living in the same skinny form in a huge palace, it makes no sense. Because what is the use of staying in a huge palace with good dress and everything if you are very skinny? So it's most likely that Sudama's wife's body also changed. As in, she became healthy or whatever you want to say. But then why, the V.Shrikanth Thakur asked the question, why did Sudama's body not change at all? What was the reason behind it? Because Sudama was skinny only, same way he came back. So he said that the reason is that the wife should always be able to recognize her husband quickly. Because Chakravarti explains, it seems that the tradition in India is that a wife should never have to wonder who is my husband. She should be able to spot her husband immediately. But the husband can look out to understand where is your husband. So all the men are extremely happy. So when I said Pramod laughing the waist, I don't know why. I need to remind him that Mataji arrived. And he was thinking that she has added down. Very nice point, I think it very well. He said that, because the wife should always be chaste. So she should be able to identify her husband without challenges. Immediately she should be able to identify but for the husband, he can, do a research survey to understand where is my wife now. So it is for that reason that her body changed, but his body did not. It remained the same way. So another very interesting thing he was saying that, so this, again, we'll first finish the story and then we will come back to the lessons. Okay, so he said that the end of the story, Sudama's story is that Sudama enjoyed all these facilities and lived with his family very nicely. So going to saying that generally when we talk about the story of Sudama, we forget to mention this last line. That Sudama, he lived very happily with his family in all these comforts. We generally do not state that. Generally we either may neglect it or we think that that is not necessary. Because generally we have a model, he was talking in general, that generally we have a feeling that renunciation only has to be emphasized a lot. But he was saying it is not like that. He was talking about this point, Grihasthas and Brahmacharis. He was saying that Grihasthas should have Grihasthas only as their model in life and not Brahmacharis. He said Brahmacharis, they should look at them only for inspiration in terms of certain things, but not as a model to emulate. He said that Grihastha should always be enterprising and very active. Though for Brahmacharis, those things are not recommended. They should always be austere, minimize ambitions, etc. But I was saying for Grihasthas to minimize ambition is not generally very recommended. So, by making this particular point in this context of Sudama's story, that is why sometimes when we hear Sudama's story in our ISKCON circles also, we may sometimes hear overemphasis on Sudama's poverty and not hear about the fact that Sudama had a very good life at the end in his big palace given by Krishna with his family and had a very good time, and that is also considered acceptable and perfect. You understand the point, right? So that is one very interesting thing.
Daridrata is not equal to devotional service and prosperity is not equal to going away from Krishna.
Yeah, fantastic sentence. Tell it again. Unfortunately the mic cannot come to you. Daridrata is not equal to devotional service. Daridrata is not equal to devotional service, and
prosperity is not equal to going away from Krishna.
Prosperity is not equal to going away from Krishna. Yeah. So he was saying this. So then he was making this point that simplicity is not of things, it is a thinking pattern. He said simplicity is not of things. It is not that if you don't have anything, you are very simple. He said simplicity is a thinking pattern. He said that without anything a person can be very complicated. And he said that I have met many people who are very big people but who are actually very simple. He said we should never superimpose poverty as simplicity. Thinking that somebody's poverty is simple. And it's actually a fact. Like if you see people like, we can give an example, Krishna Chandra Prabhu, very simple person actually. Really very simple person. If you know him as a person, if any of you have ever had an opportunity to really deal with him one-on-one, you will see really very simple and down to earth. I mean, many of us who don't even have a fraction of perhaps what we may have in terms of wealth, they are much more complicated than him. So there's nothing to do with that. It's a matter of this thing. Later in our train also we were discussing on this point a lot. So when was giving many examples, he was saying that how, they, because Chowpatty, they have they are in a very downtown Mumbai, many big people come. So he was saying that recently some big families, I don't want to quote their name because I don't record it. So, big families who, come there, very big, really, of the class of Ambani's actually. They have started coming there and, these people are there cultivating them and all that. So he was telling about, because he knows many of them, he was telling that how simple those people are. He was saying that, he had taken them to Dwarka Yatra recently. And first time they rode a bus in their life. They never traveled only. Bus mein gaye nahi kabhi. But still really very simple. Like in their family, they follow Vallabh Sampradaya, whatever. So all their children have gone, the ladies in their house read Bhagavatam from first canto to 12th canto in their pregnancy, when the children were being born. And these are like, families who said that, for weekend they go to Switzerland to do skiing and they come back. That kind of family. What is it? Like, they took them to the garden in somewhere in Gujarat, they have a farm or whatever. There are some 1.5 lakh mango trees over there. Means everything is of that class. He was saying that even though such people are, there are such people who are very big, but they have a lot of devotion to Krishna. Really they have. And they are very much attracted to devotional service. And they really look to association of sadhus. So I was saying this point emphatically that simplicity has nothing to do with your external situation. You could be rich and you could be really very simple. And you could be poor and you could be extremely complicated and complex. So it is not necessary. Then he was giving, in the context of Sudama, he gave another parallel that was very beautiful. He was giving the example of Drona. He said Drona was apparently in poverty before. But he was quite egoistic, and he said, he compared Sudama going to Krishna and Drona going to Drupal. He said very nicely, he said, Sudama used his monetary request as a tool to enhance his friendship with Krishna. Sudama, he went for monetary request only, right? His wife told him that go and ask Krishna for some wealth. So that monetary request, which was the basis, he used that as a tool to enhance his friendship with Krishna. When he went to Krishna, he never spoke about money only. He just wanted friendship. But if Drupal on the other hand used his friendship with Drupal as a tool to get money, it just didn't work. He said. Because it doesn't actually, he said what Drupal said made sense. In a court, if a poor Brahmin comes in and says, I am your friend, give me wealth. For the king to say, okay, I'll give you money is a different thing. But to say like that, it's a totally different thing. He used this friendship as a tool to, get something out of him. He said it just didn't work and the result was catastrophic. He said everybody killed each other in the end. Drona killed Drupa, Drupa's son killed Drona and Drona's son killed Drupa's son. So, the whole family was wiped off. So he was telling that as well. Yeah, so these were some very interesting things that we learned in the context of Sudama story. Another interesting, okay, I think that's pretty much about Sudama's life that we learned. Anybody has anything else to add?
He was telling about Lord Krishna's aesthetic sense. He said that not only he made the house into a palace, he made the wife and children opulent because there should be no rasabas.
Yeah, but we said that, you live in a big palace, you have to have that kind of physique also. You can't be a thin, skinny lady in a huge palace. It doesn't make any sense actually. Yeah, correct. Good. Any other point? Yeah, we discussed that. Grasta has to be enterprising and that's why they should not follow brahmachari's renunciation as a model.
We hear that even the things of other people also change.
Huh?
Where he was staying, the other people's houses also change.
Oh really? I don't know that. He is asking a further question. Sudama, where his hut was, did the other people's house also change? His hut became palace. उसका layer अभी भी hut में एक ही palace हो गया. Palace में. Doesn't look like it. Maybe also, I don't know really. So we don't know, so we can't comment on it.
Here is one contamination of sort of problem.
Yeah, pride of pronunciation. Very good. Yeah, in this context, he was also saying, in the context of, in the context of if he was making, I don't know in what context he was making this point. He was saying sometimes our this returns many times, that sometimes our preaching to people is in terms of our frustration. As in, if suppose we are poor or whatever, we may unnecessarily preach to everybody to remain poor. Thinking that, then we tend to impose our rules on others. So in that context, he was saying that we should never impose rules on someone. So he was talking about Ram. He was saying how Ram never imposed his own rules, the rules of Ayodhya on Kishkinda. He said that is why in Ramayana you see that when Vali was killed, he is asking Tara to get remarried to Sugriv. That was not the culture of Ayodhya. In Ayodhya, if a lady became a widow, she would not get remarried like this to brother, that also. But that was the culture of Kishkinda because these were all monkeys. And in monkey society, it was very difficult for a widow to stay like that as a chaste widow. Somebody will attack her. So better she gets married so that at least she is protected. So the point is the culture of that place was different and Ram was sensitive to that culture and hence he ordered that she should get married to Sugriv. So in this context he was talking that we have to be sensitive to other people's context and culture and not impose our own rules on people. Understood? He was saying that suppose if you are poor, whatever, suppose if we are preaching to somebody big like this, somebody of that category, what is talking. So we should not unnecessarily put some austerity on their head. We should not push simplicity in terms of our own understanding. We should allow them to go big. In that context, he was saying. Because the culture in every place or situation or family is different, and we have to be sensitive to that. And there is no need to be very pushy in that context. You understand? So that he gave the example of Lord Ram with this thing. And then he made a very interesting point over here. He said that in Kamba Ramayana, like among the two, Valmiki Ramayana is the most authentic, which mentions this. That Ram is asking Tara to get married to Sugriv. But in Kamba Ramayana, Kamba doesn't speak about it. Kamba doesn't speak about Ram asking Tara to be married to Sugriv. So he's saying why? Because he said they had a discussion, he said, the brahmacharis and they said they felt that Kamba, because he was basically he was writing it prominently for a South Indian audience and whatever. So he said he felt that it would be again, it's better to be sensitive to the culture of India, where widow remarriage is not allowed. So if you mention such a pastime, people will get confused. ऐसे कैसे होगा? अभी उसका husband मर गया और राम बोल रहा है कि भाई से शादी करो. ये कैसे है? मतलब what kind of Sanskrit is this? Because in human culture this is not allowed. So that is also another kind of sensitivity. Because of which he says that Kamba decides to avoid mentioning that pastime in his Ramayana. But the fact is that Valmiki does mention this. Okay, so he said the whole thing is about being sensitive. Yeah, go ahead.
Kamba Ramayana, what it says is, when Lakshman comes angered, come to Sugriva, at that time he sees Tara. It says he remembers their mothers also, because they are also widows.
Oh, like that he mentioned.
He remembers them. When she comes
to pacify his own mother. Yeah.
She comes to pacify.
Yeah, correct.
It doesn't mean that Valmiki is not mentioned.
No, it's a different context. See, Kamba writes it predominantly in a more. See, Kamba is a recent author. Valmiki is some other age only, not total. You cannot compare their eras.
So other age should be even more sensitive.
No, it is not like that.
That particular.
See, in that era, they understand about what, because Valmiki writes at the time of Ramayana only. Na? At that time, they understand that monkey civilization is different and human civilization is different. But modern Indians may not have that discrimination to understand that. So both are sensitivity, but in different contexts.
In case of preaching, if we go to some distant land, in that case there will be kind of conflict if you follow this principle. First of all, I'm just asking you, what is important in this case? Is it changing the culture, or like let's say Prabhupada, he went abroad, he gave culture, he changed the people as well as he gave them Krishna consciousness. But then, will it be insensitive to give the Vedic culture in such scenarios wherein the people are really not following and they have a different culture?
Yeah, good question. That is why it has also always been a challenge to have the cultural aspects of India and actually there. You understand what I'm saying, right? It has not been very easy. That is why even Prabhupada's movement, it has never been that easy to ensure that Westerners pick up. And Prabhupada was also aware of that, and I would say pretty much sensitive to that, because Prabhupada always mentions that if I tell you all the rules which the rules that typically people would follow, it was never very easy for people in a different cultural context to accept and follow. It's a fact. As a fact of the matter, it is true only that it was and it is never that easy, because of the cultural upbringing and everything. Because we are affected by our environment. All said and done, it becomes very difficult. That's why the Western world, those who were even in Prabhupada's times and even to a great extent now also, those who stay in the temple in a very protected environment, they are able to kind of manage and follow everything. But staying out in the civil society and following in the West, even today it is a challenge, right? How many grahasthas and others we have? Like today in India, for example, we have some, let's say, who stay in their own house and practice. But in the West, that is even more difficult to find, because it just doesn't work. It's really very difficult. Those who stay within temples in a very protected environment, they find it very easy. Going from another context, he was telling that in America and all, he said that one devotee was sharing. He said that for any devotee in America, if he has to stay outside and all, even chanting 16 rounds whole life is almost very difficult or almost impossible. Very difficult, because the cultural context doesn't allow you only to do that. The life itself is so complicated. That's the greatness of Bharata Bhumi, in a way. Okay, I'll go ahead now, because I'll just take 5-10 more minutes and we'll wind up. Yeah, so then the next thing that, we basically spoke of is, he spoke of the Brahman coming to Dwarka, that pastime. That pastime is there, the Brahman comes to Dwarka saying that, my children are dying and the king is not doing anything. Ugrasen is not doing anything. And my children he's blaming Ugrasen, Krishna, everybody. And at that time, the story, right? Arjuna takes a vow that either I will protect your 10th child or I will enter fire. And then ultimately he is not able to save the child. And then Krishna takes Arjuna all the way. Arjuna is about to enter fire and Krishna is taking him all the way till Mahavishnu and getting all the 10 children back. Because Mahavishnu had played this trick. Because he wanted to have a darshan of Krishna. So in that context he was telling some other things. So he was saying that, first he was saying that the Brahman holding Ugrasen responsible indicates what kind of freedom of speech was there in those times. He was saying a simple poor Brahman could come and say that king is nonsense and useless. He said that in today's world, even though we say democratic and this and that, actually freedom of speech is not very easy. He said that if you actually start objecting against big people, you are actually in trouble, you are finished trouble. He was saying this, and that's actually a fact as well. That if you say anything against a very big person, even on, there are so many cases we saw in the recent past in India as well, where somebody said something against a politician on Facebook, Twitter, something, and they were really caught actually with the police. Means they put some defamation case on them, and they really they landed in big trouble. You are saying all the freedom of speech that is there, it is all in a way nonsense only in today's world. Actually, you are not so free to say anything you want also. Correct? We all accept this. So he is saying in Dwarka, actual freedom of speech was there. Because this Brahman could come to the gate and say, Ugrasen is nonsense, he could say. He could say that. And nobody did anything to him. He had that freedom of speech to say it. You see, that is the height of freedom of speech. I think this is a very nice point in connection with today's social issues. Actually, Govind Prabhu was later also saying that it is very important for devotees to bring out these kind of points and write books or articles, because he himself is doing that, writing articles like this, so that modern man can connect to Mahabharata from the modern perspective. Understood? He can see through because otherwise we feel that these are all okay. story of Brahman, something we hear. Okay, relevance kya hai? What do you learn from administrative this thing? You learn that there is freedom of speech in the Shastra. Such a freedom of speech. A poor man can, say something against the king, which is not there today. So things like that, he says that should also be the focus of devotees in their writing and preaching to the outside world, so that people are able to relate to the scripture and not feel that scripture is talking something old and some ancient thing which has nothing to do with present time. Like that. So anyway, so then he was saying that the interesting thing about kings in India, he said that there is he has written some articles also on this, but he was mentioning this point here. The kings in India were never feudal. You understand what is feudal system, right? In a feudal system, the king owns everything. He said there is a major difference between the kings of the West and the kings in India, Europe and India. He said in Europe and Dubai and other places, the king actually owns everything. People don't own anything. But he said in India, the tradition was, he said in Anushasan Parvat of Mahabharata and in Chanakya Niti, all these things are mentioned. King is the caretaker of property and never the owner. The Brahmanas were considered owner of the property but not caretaker. So the idea was those who own, they don't manage, and those who manage, they don't own. He said that was the thing that Chanakya and Anushasan Parva of Mahabharata speaks about. So that kind of a combination works very well. So he said the kings actually never own. So saying even in the Ramayana it comes, that in Ramayana at one point of time, Ram gives the land, everything in Ayodhya after his coronation, he gives in Dan to the Brahmins. And the Brahmins say, okay, no problem, it is ours only, but you manage it. They don't give it back in that sense. They just say that you manage it. Okay. Technically you can say that it belongs to the Brahmanas, the kingdom. But management you will do. So this was the concept in the Vedic times. So the king was a servant actually. So he was saying that the spirit of service was very strongly present. That is why people could challenge the king and say such things. Like this Brahman came and challenged Ugrasena. And then he was saying that, it was the nature of Arjuna to take constant vows to enter fire. Many times he did that. And every time, Krishna saved him. We all know that, right? Which are the past times where Arjuna vows to enter fire? One is when? Jayadratha. And one more was there in the Bhagavad. Hanuman. Yes, where that they are testing. Hanuman is testing in that, they are making some bridge or something, who will jump. That past time, right? At least 3 occasions we know where Arjuna promises to enter fire. And all the 3 times the Lord only protects him. So anyway, so this is one thing. Then the last thing in terms of the Hanuman Bridge, past time when Arjuna is banished to the forest because of entering Draupadi's room, he comes to south. At that time there is a small monkey, and Arjuna and that monkey enter some kind of a thing where that monkey says that Arjuna says I will make a bridge of arrows, and then monkey says I can destroy anything that you put. That monkey was actually Hanuman, so they are having a competition. So Arjuna is shooting arrows and then monkey jumps on it and it breaks. Arjuna shoots even stronger bridge, but again Hanuman breaks it. So like that they keep breaking. So the vow, the bet was, if Arjuna loses, he will enter fire, and if Hanuman loses, he will become a servant of Arjuna. So that was the bet between them. So finally Arjuna is about to enter fire because Hanuman in the form of a small monkey broke everything. Later he became a big monkey also. It said that I am Hanuman also. So at that time Lord comes and the Lord says that, okay, now you shoot in front of me. And in the Lord's presence, when Arjuna shoots the bridge, Hanuman is jumping, but nothing happens to the bridge. Then, actually the Lord doesn't come as a Lord, he comes as a Brahman. And he says that he's asking Arjuna, why are you entering fire? He says, we had a bet, I lost it, so I'm entering fire. So he said, no, but there was no witness. So I will be witness now, you shoot. So in the Lord's presence, when Arjuna shoots, Hanuman is unable to break it. And that is why Hanuman becomes an emblem on Arjuna's chariot as a service. Unka bet tha na, I'll become your servant in that. So like that. Anyway, so that was another story in that context. Okay, then the last part that we are actually touching on is about, this is again very interesting. So you are saying that how, despite knowing what is actually going to happen, to try to rectify a situation is a characteristic of a great personality. I'll repeat again. He said, despite knowing what is going to happen, to try to rectify a given situation is a characteristic of a great personality. You see, Krishna was a great personality because he knew that the war is inevitable, but still he was trying to stop it by going to Hastinapur as a Shanti Dut and talking to Vidura and everything. So he's saying that the Vidura Krishna discussion in the Mahabharata is very interesting because this comes up over there. So Vidura is saying that these people are not going to change, they are not going to change. Krishna says no, we should try, but even though we know it is not going to work, we should try. And Krishna says I will try. So they were saying that how a great people always try, even though knowing that things may not get rectified. So I think there is a very important lesson for this in our own lives as well, in a family and everything. Where sometimes in our family also we may feel that somebody may not change, or because generally people don't change much. It's actually a fact, and we all have our experience. We ourselves also don't change much. Like we have our experience. Like husband and wife also we see this. The wife tells husband, change yourself in the way you eat or speak or whatever. But inevitably that nature comes up again only. Because generally people don't change by and large. Very few people actually change. And even the change which is there is very small. Because even, like we have discussed this many times, that even according to Shastra, 90% of all your samskaras you are picking from your past life and in your room only. And when you come out, your 90% personality is fixed. The change is to 5-10% of your personality, that's all. So, ज़्यादा change नहीं होता व्यक्ति. वैसे ही रहते generally. We see also, even we become devotees or whatever, some externals change, but the personality remains well the same. And that's why we have this experience. Many times we feel also, अरे आदमी तो वैसे ही है जैसा whatever, some basic aspects of it. But so in our families or whatever, we may feel that somebody may not change and he is totally useless, but still one should keep trying to change. So that is a sign of a great personality. The Dwarka was not going to change, but Krishna kept trying, and that is a sign of a great personality, not to give up hope from their external perspective. Then the last point which I just want to briefly touch on is, he was talking about 3 platforms of operating in society. He was saying there are 3 platforms, because he was talking in terms of the war and the death that happened, the Mahabharata war. So he was saying that, somebody may say, Arey, if you say Duryodhan died, this fellow died, that fellow died, but even Abhimanyu died. So many good people also died. Many of the Pandavas' children died, everybody died. So is the death same? He was saying no. He was saying that there are 3 positions to operate in society. First position is a depressive suicidal tendency. Everyone should be very depressed and feel that, suicide, to feel suicidal. And there are many big philosophers also who feel like that. There is one very famous philosopher, he says that any intelligent man will ultimately realize that suicide is the only ultimate option that is available to human. And both the philosophy they feel like that very strongly. So that means going into depression. So either you take shelter of intoxication or you decide to commit suicide. So that is depressive suicidal tendency. Second is exploit society. Try to exploit as much as possible, but ultimately your life ends in death. And that is Duryodhan and his whole family. Trying to exploit for one's own enjoyment, but ultimately ending in death. Third thing he said is dedicate your life for the truth, and in that process also you die. So he's saying dying is common to all, but why you die makes the difference. So he's saying we cannot compare the death of a person like Abhimanyu to that of Duryodhan and others. Because one is dying at platform 3 and another is dying in platform number 2. And platform 2 is to exploit, he is dying. And the third one is dying because of dedicating himself for the truth. So he is saying that this is very, very important.
Yeah, second one.
Yeah, second is brutal. Exploiting. What happened? She's objecting to something over here. Yeah. So I think that is pretty much, and I know yeah, there are many other things, but I have just kind of cut short over. Any other important thing?
You have to change, right? Keep changing the other person, but then you also change yourself. Don't try to change.
No, changing other person, see, changing other person sometimes is required, like in this situation, Krishna had to change Duryodhan mentality. No, not only God, because see, the whole society was at stake. So many people are going to die because of this foolish Duryodhan. So it is important to try to change him. And in a family, you always want to change. Like tomorrow, you have a child or something at home, and he is having a particular kind of personality trait, which is not good for some purpose. You always keep trying to set it right. You should not change others, as in, if you have nothing to give and take, and some things are a very personal thing which is not affecting anybody, then okay, we can do it. Yeah, loka-sangraha you have to change. You have to try to change. Because it's affecting society. It's not a small thing. Right?
He said there is nothing wrong if right endeavor fails.
Yeah.
But not endeavoring is not good.
Yeah, in that context of it.